All characters and events based in this podcast, even those based on real people, are entirely fictional. All celebrity voices are impersonated, poorly. The following program contains coarse language, and due to its content, it should not be listened to by anyone.
Well, hello there, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of Season 2 of Shelf Life. I'm Kevin.
Oh, hey there, children. That's how it sounded to me. I'm Rachel.
And this is Shelf Life, a podcast by a brother and sister that are going through all things pop culture, from all the genres and all the different types of media that you can think of under the sun to determine whether or not they belong on your shelf, both physical and digital. And today is a very special episode of Shelf Life because we are beginning our trek. I guess I shouldn't be the one to say it. You should be the one to say it. That's how we normally do this thing. So, Rachel, what is up for contention to the shelf today?
Oh, a very humble, classic TV show. Animated TV show, I should say. Something you guys may know as South Park.
That's right. We're going down to South Park. We're gonna have
ourselves a time.
There's friendly faces everywhere.
Humble folks without temptation. Anyways.
So yes, if you couldn't tell by my slight, oh, hello, everybody, how you doing there? Or however you wanted to think of it, we are trekking into South Park, another television show. We're doing Season 1. We're starting Season 1 today. We're going to go through...
Mind you.
That's what I said. That's what I said.
What
did you think I said?
I just want them to keep in mind that this is South Park Season 1. You'll understand. They'll understand in a second, okay?
Okay. So, Rachel, I gotta tell you, because this is, it's very special to me. I think it's special to you. I think we have to start where we started with the rest of these shows, these TV shows, and I'll stop doing the Matt Stone and Trey Parker bit in a second with the this is definitely one of our favorite television shows, and I think it's appropriate that we start with why and how. So, Rachel, what are your feelings in general about South Park?
What are my feelings
And do you remember
general?
anything about Season 1 of South Park?
Well, okay, so I remember Season 1. Like, I remember the episodes, because it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I remember, like, the gist of stuff that may have happened. But it's probably been a while since I went back and watched Season 1. We grew up on South Park. I remember being a kid watching South Park.
What a terror! Our parents, we had good parents.
No, we didn't. We turned out just fine. I don't know what you're talking about.
We're fine. I don't know what's wrong. You're fine.
No,
just
so
the hours upon hours of talking about television shows and movies. We're fine.
Yeah. That's totally normal. My feelings. So, I remember going back and forth as a kid, whether I liked it or not. There were a lot of things I hated about South Park, and there were a lot of things I found funny, which is probably still true to this day.
We'll find out. That's the point of this show.
I do have favorite episodes of South Park, which I do, well, okay, I probably shouldn't spoil anything about Season 1 yet, but I mean, it's gonna be different because they had to make it differently, and it's gonna be a little bit cruder than I think what they do now.
It's a lot of what we see we've done, this is the 5th television show we're doing.
Sure.
We've seen this with, except for Twilight Zone, that kind of kicked... Well, I mean, we haven't gotten into... We got out of the Twilight Zone, luckily. We'll get sucked back in at some point. But I don't know how we got out at all. The Twilight Zone took a few episodes to kind of get going, and then, there's a main event down the line for us. The rest of the shows, though, that we've done, that first season is a little like they're figuring stuff out. Kind of like Shelf Life.
The train is just starting.
Yeah. So, South Park is no different when it comes to the first season.
But what are your thoughts?
I love South Park. I do. I think it's a great
I do
show.
too. I do quote it. I'm just saying I do have I do have a love-hate relationship with some of it.
There are some clunkers. So there are 317 episodes of South Park as of this recording. We will eventually do them. Unlike The Simpsons, I don't know if there's a point where we're like, okay, that's the end of the show. There's a new show starting. The quality has completely dipped. There's dips in South Park.
Yeah.
But then there's rises again. There's hills and valleys when it comes to the quality, I think, of South Park compared to The Simpsons, which was like mountaintop and then plummet.
Right.
So
no, I agree.
It's a little more difficult to say, oh, we can cut it off after season 15 or whatever.
Sure.
But as a kid, I don't remember a lot of hype about South Park during the first season. You would have been way too young to know anything. I would have been... True. I think, actually, if you consider how old the boys are, I'm the same age as the boys. If you start their age at when the show starts. Not when... We'll get into the short that Matt and Trey did. But if you consider the age that they are in 1997, I'm about their age. Around their age. So because of that, the show was interesting to kids my age. Because, one, you were told you weren't supposed to watch it. It's too crude and violent and gross and sexual, and it's not for kids. But it's a cartoon. It's animated. They're swearing. They're your age. And the whole point that Matt and Trey talk about all the time is that when you were a kid, you were a little asshole. You weren't this angelic thing.
No, all kids were little assholes.
Yeah, kids are jerks. So it fits in that way too. They're obnoxious, and they all have different, very distinct personalities. Even in this first season, they have distinct personalities. They're probably not as three-dimensional as they are over time, but they still come through as being distinct. The four main kids. But I will say, I think what happened was Mr. Hanky episode, the Christmas episode, kicks the thing off into high gear. And after that, and especially coming into season 2 of South Park, that's where it hit the playground a little bit more. That's where, I think, if I remember correctly, I don't totally remember, but I do remember, like, being in my friend's basement or, like, in our downstairs having South Park on. Like, oh, we'll watch South Park and see if South Park's on. Because you would have to wait till it was later at night and turn South Park on and watch.
Yeah, because usually it would come on late. I remember it always coming on late and going, oh, it's almost bedtime. Because, like, it would come on that late. I remember that.
Yeah, even if they were replaying it, it was probably even later than when they had it on in... Because it's been on at 10 o'clock Eastern Time on Wednesdays since the beginning. So it always was that time. But I remember watching it like Saturday nights at our house with a friend or at their house or whatever. And not understanding probably 85% of what was going on, but they're swearing and they're little kids and Cartman's fat.
And it's funny.
Yeah, they killed Kenny, so it's funny. It does have its place in history to me, and it's why we have it here as something to be on the shelf. It's an important show for us and kind of how we look and view the world too. Because like you said, we quote it, but one of the things that we have to keep in mind, and one of the ways that I was going to start the show, was just saying and quoting and espousing about the absurdity of life.
Yeah.
And satire. And Rachel, I think I could probably make up some quotes and try to figure out how to say it appropriately in our life here in this day and age. We're looking around and we read the news, or you go outside, or you just listen to people talk, or the internet. Life is completely absurd. And there's no way to pull that in and view it and comment on it and make a statement on it unless you're being somewhat satirical. You have to have satire in this world to bring out some truth, or to make people think, or to show that you're thinking yourself. Satire is needed.
It's one of the things that South Park does best, too, is that they really truly do put life and what's happening in the world into their shows all the time. And it's kind of like they're making comments on it, but they're also just kind of like, no, this is just what it is. We're gonna make fun
I
of
think it's their
everything.
worldview. I think it's their worldview.
I do think it is their worldview, yes. But I do see it as they're gonna make fun of everything, no matter if it's themselves or not. Like, they're gonna make fun of it, period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's one of the things I do like about South Park, is that they don't hold back.
Right. They decide that
It's all or nothing.
Even if, yes, there's no absolutism for the most part. There are absolutes, but not for the most part. There is a definitive look at the world around us. Life in general is absurd. That's it. The idea to find meaning and to find what life is about, and people that believe in like that, the absurdity of life is that it's incomprehensible. It's Camus, right? I think South Park is trying to find the meaning. It is trying to get us all to understand each other a little bit better. Season 1, maybe not so much.
Yeah, I was gonna say season one. I mean, we're getting deep on this one, and now we're like, not speaking of any of that. Season 1 of South Park.
We'll talk about because there is still some satire and stuff in South Park, because South Park becomes a satire show. It takes some seasons to get there, but at this point in our lives, I mean, during the pandemic especially, people were like, they're going to do a pandemic special on South Park. They couldn't wait to hear their take, because people wanted to hear and wanted to see. It almost feels like South Park is kind of outside the stigma of having to pick a side. It can make a comment, and it can look at it almost third party, whereas you don't have a stake in the game or something like that. Mm-hmm. I don't know. But that's not what season 1 is. Season 1, I would say, is about the total absurd. It's about shock value. It's about making potty humor, stuff like that. But there is satire still in it.
The way you said that.
Potty?
Potty humor.
Potty humor.
That's how you said it. I'm gonna repeat you over and over again, because you're ridiculous.
If we're going to talk about South Park, we have to talk a little bit about Trey Parker, Matt Stone, the creators of South Park. Rachel, they recently just signed a contract with Paramount Studios for $900 million.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. I'll probably, if we can get 1% of that for Shelf Life, I'll probably take it. I'll probably take it.
No, you wouldn't.
You don't know that.
Disney, I do.
We're listening. Paramount, we're listening.
Disney. Okay, who is the other stakeholder in this?
Well, whatever. I don't care.
Disney wouldn't want us.
Universal
might want us.
Disney could put us on... I don't know any... I'm trying to think of actual, like, podcast networks, but I don't really want to name any of them.
Just bleep everything out. Bleep and bleep.
So, South Park's origins come from the fact that South Park is not a real town in Colorado. It is a region in Colorado, the South Park Basin. It's like an hour away from Denver, I think is the idea. The whole idea behind having a town, of course, that's in that area but not, is because that's where Trey Parker grew up. And I think Matt Stone grew up pretty close to that.
He went to the university. He said that while he was in that little thing. That's where they met, was in Colorado University.
So they both grew up in Colorado, and then they went to the University of Colorado, where they met in beginning filmmaking class. And I could have sworn that Trey Parker majored in music too, but he was in this filmmaking class. Matt Stone, I think, was a math major in this filmmaking class. It was probably one of those things where it was like, let's do something fun, probably.
Yeah,
and for Trey, it really was I want to do... Because Trey was... You can tell, just watch South Park, you can tell, Trey Parker wanted to be a comedy musician, like a Weird Al, I think was his first idea.
I could see that.
And they're very good at it. The songs on South Park are unbelievably good.
Those are probably some of my favorite episodes, is the ones with music in it.
Yes. So they meet in this filmmaking class, and they kind of bond because they clearly have the same sense of humor. They like each other. They both had a fondness for Monty Python. So
I could see that too. I could see
yeah,
that.
especially with these older episodes. We love something that the two of them did that not a lot of people... I think a lot of people really... What's the nose? What's that? They put their noses down? What's that phrase? They look... It's not... I want it... It's like
They
look
look
down.
down.
But it's with your nose.
They put up their nose. Wait,
put up their noses at it.
No, that's not it. Hold on a second. Turn one's nose up.
Yeah, they turn their noses up at it.
Turn your nose up. It's turn your nose up. Yeah, say that.
What did you say?
Put up your nose.
Put up your nose. Hey, put up your nose.
I almost had it.
All right, turn your nose. They turn their noses up at this, but I think when we watch it, and we quote from this all the time, I think it exemplifies their liking of Monty Python and the humor that they put into South Park, and that's basketball.
Oh my god, basketball.
Go get out the list. Write it down.
All right. I got this. I think it's already there. I'm pretty sure I wrote this down.
If Orgasmo and Cannibal the Musical aren't already there, put those down too.
Oh my god.
Decide to collaborate on some short films. And they make short films in college. They were trying to explicitly almost make fun of the rest of their classmates because the rest of their... Not, like, outright, but the rest of their classmates' desire to be Martin Scorsese and Steven Spielberg and an important filmmaker. They were like, no, we're going to be absurdist and satirize your important filmmaking. So a lot of their short films were kind of doing that stuff. I think Matt Stone said they lost a lot of the short films that they would make in college because they would like do like one a week or like one a month or something like that. That was what they did for fun. You know, not unlike a couple of people here doing things for fun. So they make a short for their class called American History. And they decide to use construction paper and make it animated using construction paper.
Yep.
And they decide to have, I think it was trays. Folks, I'm doing this without a lot of notes in front of me. So if I get any of this wrong, we'll correct it in future.
So atypical of you. That is so not typical.
I know. I'm sorry.
Can't believe you.
I think it was Trey's roommate was Japanese. So they had him do it from like his perspective. So they had him narrate the history of America. And it's like a lot of the Pilgrims shot the Indians and killed like all of that kind of thing. I think that's the one. Trey won an Student Academy Award for it.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I love that.
I think he's quoted as saying, like, they showed it, and he was like, I was there with all these other nominees, which were very, like, we're trying to be, we're trying to tell about the plight of the human condition and stuff. And Trey's like, look at how shitty America was made. It's just us killing things. They then decide to make a fake trailer for the class called Cannibal the Musical. I don't think that's what they originally call it. They call it something else. But it turns into, because the students in the film thought it was really funny, and they thought it was funny, so they decide to make a full-length version of it called Cannibal the Musical. So they write the music for it. Their family members pitch in, like, money for it. And I think they made it on like $100,000 or something like that, all told, because they got their friends and they get their own money. It does always seem like a ton of money whenever you hear how much money anybody even raises just for something that has what would be considered no budget, because $100,000 would be considered like no budget.
Jeez.
It is what it is. It's a parody of musicals about the story of a guy that was the first person in the U.S. to be tried for cannibalism. It's an interesting story.
I don't think I've seen this. This I have not seen.
So they never were able to get it really distributed until South Park came along, and then Troma bought it and distributed it. So you can watch it. It is out there. I've seen the Cinema Snob did a review of it, and I watched the Cinema Snob's review of it, but I've never seen the actual movie. In 1992, they create an animated short called The Spirit of Christmas. And they decided to go back and they used their construction paper cutouts with the stop motion. And I think the reason that they decided to use the stop motion and the cutouts is because of Monty Python. Because I think there's Monty Python stuff where they use like the cutouts to do transitions or the opening credits to the movies. They use that style. So I think it's supposed to be an homage to that.
Okay.
And in the spirit of Christmas, 4 kids, Jesus, there's Frosty. It's very, very rudimentary version of South Park. And they make the movie exactly how you'd expect them to make the movie. They did it for the class. So that's the origin of South Park. They did it for their class. We have to talk about a little bit of how you can go from having all of this stuff to how you can end up on Comedy Central. And a lot of that has to do with, and I know we said it in the Simpsons episode, and I know this is a South Park episode, but we have to kind of frame it into this where The Simpsons comes on in 1989 and 1990, and it changes the game of television, as I have stood my ground on. And so now animated shows can be more adult. And then you get stuff like Beavis and Butthead, which we got to give credit to, too, for pushing the envelope. Mm-hmm. And you get King of the Hill, and you get some, like, even like Rocko's Modern Life, or The Critic, or
yes,
those kind of things. They can kind of push it a little bit into...
Yeah, they push boundaries just a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. So...
And then you come to like today's where it's like you have like the Rick and Morty and you have Adventure Time and those types of things that also push it, but they have more that they can play with.
Yes. But I would say that South Park is the thing that allowed avalanche of all of those things to be there too.
Oh, absolutely. I think in more so than The Simpsons. I think The Simpsons started it, but and South Park comes in with this, and that like pushes it even further.
The Simpsons crawled, so South Park couldn't draw.
All right, look, I'm not trying to get deep for South Park, but I mean, you're going in that direction. What do you want from me?
No. That's what I'm saying. And then, so Matt and Trey moved to LA. They started doing freelance work. Whatever was kind of necessary for them, they would write, they would edit, whatever. In 1995, they're doing freelance work. And a Fox executive named Brian Graydon decided to pay them $1,000 after seeing Jesus vs. Frosty to make a sequel because he thought it was funny and send it out as a Christmas card. So they make The Spirit of Christmas. This time they make it Jesus vs. Santa. It is better looking than Jesus vs. Frosty. They're both angry at each other because they're trying to figure out what the true spirit of Christmas is. Is it Santa Claus or is it Jesus? And Jesus is mad because he thinks Santa is taking Christmas away from him, so they fight in like a Mortal Kombat style. Brian Boitano is in it, all of this other stuff. What happens is Brian Graydon sends it out as a video Christmas card that he can send to people, and it gets distributed. He sends it to 80 people. What happens after this is the thing kind of goes viral. It starts going around Hollywood because it went to this executive's friends, then it goes to other people. It ends up in George Clooney's hands, and then George Clooney just starts kind of posts it on the internet via email, and it starts getting to regular people, and it becomes this viral video. It's kind of weird to think about because if they would have done it 20 years later, 15 years later, when the internet was more popular, it kind of makes me wonder if Trey and Matt would have gotten a show out of this, or would they just be like a YouTube channel making South Park,
right.
Which I'm sure they would still make money, but they wouldn't be making $1 billion.
No, I'd imagine it would just become like YouTube Shorts. Yeah, that's what I would expect.
Which is still fine. Like, they still would have had like a following. They probably still could have been as creative, but it's just interesting that now they would have gotten an outlet where they could have done this, but it wouldn't have to have been on such a big stage, which is both, a positive and negative. They got to be on a giant stage, but if they would have been something on YouTube, they could have been, one, totally pretty completely, have freedom, but they would have been in a niche. So like there's more of them. So like nowadays there could be 100 of these, where back then only one thing's getting through the door and it happened to be South Park.
Right.
probably because of how, I mean, it's genius stuff that they do in, by having Cartman get an anal probe and things like that. So the thing gets passed around, the Spirit of Christmas gets passed around on a bootleg video and stuff like that. And because of this, Fox considers the rights to South Park. They want to give Trey and Matt a show. However, Fox did not want to include the classic character of Mr. Hanky, which, as we all know, is a talking piece of poo.
Yep.
They didn't want anything to do with Mr. Hanky. So Matt and Trey were like, we're not compromising. We're going to put this talking piece of poo in the show. So Fox said, no, we're walking. The video keeps moving. Comedy Central takes a look at it. Now, I think what's interesting when you're looking at the parallel between Simpsons and South Park is in the way that Simpsons rose, with some other stuff, rose Fox's level of prominence from obscurity almost single-handedly. That's what South Park kind of does for Comedy Central. Comedy Central was a mid-tier kind of cable network. It had its shows. It had a cult following for a lot of stuff. It had Mystery Science Theater for a time. It had like some different British sitcom, those kind of things that were more culty. But they decide that they will develop the series. So they decided to negotiate with both MTV and Comedy Central. And they wanted to go with Comedy Central more because they thought MTV might turn it into some sort of kids show or dumb it down, and they didn't want that either. Because obviously, I mean, this is the height of intellectualism, the first season of South Park. There was a Comedy Central executive, Doug Herzog, which I think his name comes up in other stuff too. He watched the short. He commissioned it to become a series. So they spend 3 months creating Cartman Gets an Anal Probe, which is the first episode of South Park. And we can probably talk about the reception of Cartman Gets an Anal Probe and what the network thought about it after we talk about it. But we can probably go a little bit into the production of Cartman Gets an Anal Probe, because they did it the exact same way that they did the shorts, which was the two of them by hand, cutting everything out, using construction paper, taking the snapshots of each frame.
They used construction paper on this first fucking episode of South Park, and now they're making $1 billion with Paramount.
I'm gonna make $1 billion by making these 4 kids that swear.
So dumb.
And doing the voiceover work themselves. And the way that they did the voiceover work was they talked normal and slow, and they sped it up to make the pitch higher in post. And I don't think that's how they do it anymore. I think that they have kind of voices for it, and then the computer just modulates it so that they can talk in a normal speaking style. But you can definitely tell, Rachel, I think you can definitely tell that they're talking slower.
It seems that way. Yeah, the voices are definitely different in this episode.
On August 13th, 1997, we get Cartman Gets an Anal Probe. It is the first episode of South Park. Rachel, anything else that you want to get into before... Hang on, do we have a fake sponsor for this episode? Okay, good. Rachel, do we have anything else before we head to break?
No. I think I'm ready to go with this one.
Okay, well, we'll take a short break, and when we come back, we start our journey into South Park with Cartman Gets an Anal Probe.
Coming this summer, it's the digitally re-enhanced re-release of the very first pilot episode of South Park. Yes, the classic, rough, handmade first episode is getting a makeover for 2002. The simple, funny aliens are now super badass and cool. The flying saucer, no longer cheap construction paper, but a 40-megapixel non-drop digital masterpiece of technology. Yes, everything's new. New is better.
When we first made South Park, we didn't want to use construction paper. We just had to because it was cheap. And now with new technology, we can finally remaster South Park to make it look sharp, clean, and focused. And expensive.
Yes, all the charm of the simple little cartoon will melt before your eyes as it is replaced by newer and more standardized animation.
For instance, in the scene at the bus stop, we always meant to have Imperial walkers and giant dewback lizards in the background, but simply couldn't afford it.
Get this special enhanced version quick, because another enhanced version will likely be coming out for 2003.
And we're back. with the first episode of South Park, Cartman Gets an Anal Probe, premiered on August 13th, 1997. Now, the difference that you and I saw this with, Rachel, is that I was watching it on my old DVDs, which I do not remember when I got, because I don't think there's any way that I would have gotten them when it first came out, which was probably around the same time that the first Simpsons DVDs came out. I don't know when I first got these things, but I don't remember watching the first season a lot. So this was something that I definitely... It's been a while since I watched these episodes. I would assume it's probably the same for you, that you don't normally go back and watch these Cartman Gets an Anal Probe.
I remember that one, but I don't remember, like, I don't usually go back and watch them, no. Yeah, this I had to stream. I didn't get the luxury of having the DVDs.
At the beginning of the DVD for the first couple seasons are Warner Brothers distribution, and then it goes to Paramount after that. And Matt and Trey do this thing. They do different vignettes at the beginning of each episode, which I think are in place of what there would be a commentary. And they do, like, funny little sketches about... Or sketches, not sketches. They do funny little sketches.
A sketch?
A sketch is something.
It's a sketch?
All the kids know what a sketch is.
You mean niece?
Niche.
Niche. That's what it sounded like to me. Sketches and sketches.
Sketch.
What the hell's a sketch? Is a sketch even a thing? It's probably
it's a product. It's a product that you can. It's a product you can download from Microsoft. I think it's a skateboarding term.
Hold on to the back of a moving motor vehicle so as to be
pulled
pulled along while riding a skateboard, bicycle, etc.
That's right. It's Marty McFly in that shit. You sketch on it.
That's probably the best way to think of it.
Yeah, and that is exactly what Matt and Trey are doing in all these. They're sketching as they introduce the episode. But I showed it to you.
Holding on for dear life. Yes,
I showed it to you while we were offline, and there are these like funny things where I thought maybe we would do them. I thought maybe even we would do them for like our fake sponsors, where we would just be like, "Oh, hello, yes, ha 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 ha." Like it's making fun of like, I don't know.
It takes me so many takes to get that right. I am not good at doing those types of things.
I don't know how to even describe it, because it's clearly they're doing a parody of like celebrities in front of the fireplace kind of a thing.
With their dog on a furry rug with their turtleneck sweaters.
Yes, and they
it's like a Christmas card, but it's a sketch.
Yes. And it's almost like they are doing... They're giving you a reason of like how they came up with the episode, but they're doing it almost in a way where you can't tell if they're being serious or not, because they're using like this affected accents, kind of. But they talk about Cartman Gets an Anal Probe. And they talk about how it's their favorite episode of South Park, which they say, I think, before every single episode on the DVD. But the idea behind what the episode was supposed to be, they spent 3 months making it in a dark, cold, lonely room. And they finished it. It was 28 minutes long, which was too long to air. They didn't realize that because of commercials, they needed to cut it down. So they cut it down about 10 minutes worth of stuff. They had to change the storyline a little bit, and there were a couple of scenes that they had to take out. The introduction of Pip, everyone's favorite character, Pip. We all know Pip.
Oh my god, I remember Pip.
Oh, hello there, little
yes.
boys. Yeah, Pip. This episode is I guess they're saying it's kind of prevalent in the region, the South Park Basin region of Colorado. I think it's prevalent in a lot of areas in the United States, where there's folklore about UFOs, about cattle mutilation, about Bigfoot sightings. Rachel, you're into all that shit, so I would assume that you could probably verify that, you know, all of that stuff. This was probably kind of
supernatural type of things happen everywhere. Yes.
So this was your type of episode because of all of that stuff.
Well, because it's got the aliens in it, yeah.
It's got abductions and things like that.
It's always fascinating. They didn't have Bigfoot. If they had Bigfoot, then...
Well, yes, you're a Bigfoot expert. They didn't have Bigfoot in this one. We'll get to Scuzzlebutt sooner or later, which
we'll get to Scuzzlebutt.
Yeah.
It's a type of Bigfoot.
He's a type of Bigfoot.
It's Colorado South Park Bigfoot.
Trey Parker has actually said, too, that they felt like there was some pressure for them to live up to the spirit of Christmas because it had become this viral sensation. So they put a lot more swearing and stuff in it, and they think that probably made it a little off-putting to some people. They were trying to force it more than do it naturally, I think, is the idea. One thing I did want to say, and I said it in our Office episode, too, is one of the reasons that I'm looking forward to going through these episodes one by one is, unlike The Simpsons, which has a lot of podcasts that go through all of their episodes, I don't know if there's a lot of good South Park podcasts out there. I don't know, like I don't know. I know The Office has podcasts, but it's more about like behind the scenes stuff and about like what it was. Oh, it was fun working on the set that day or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if there's a good podcast. Like I feel like we're documenting the truth here, Rachel. That's what we're doing. We're documenting facts. So anyway.
Well, we're straying into territories of like little niche ones, right? Where you'd expect like a whole podcast to be on just South Park itself. No, I don't know if I've heard a lot of them. I mean, if you are one and you're listening right now and you're just like screaming at me, let me know. Like send it to the Shelf Life. Let us know about you. I'm
Listeners,
curious
let us
now.
know. I think that they also like to put these aliens in like the background as like Easter eggs and different things. They have aliens in Cannibal the musical. They have them in different episodes of South Park as little Easter eggs, things like that.
They should do that more. I feel like they probably have strayed away from that at this point, but I like it when they put little Easter eggy things in the background of stuff. That's my favorite.
They've been on for 25 years, so...
Alright, fine. Yeah, stuff evolves. I know, I get it. But still,
it's
callback sometimes is fun.
I mean, it's interesting that they've been on so long that they still have such a hands-on with it. They're still making the show and stuff, so it's...
That's true. They are the faces of it, and they are actually still part of it. It's not just that, oh yeah, we were the makers. No, we still are.
I thought you were going to start doing the monologue from Willy Wonka. We are the spirit makers. We are the dreamers.
Oh no. Willy Wonka or Charlie in the Chocolate Factory?
Whatever.
No, they're totally different.
I know they are. And we'll do both of them eventually.
I feel like anything that's like a repeat, I want to do like a special moment for those. We might have specials for those.
My favorite line from the introduction to the DVD of this part of the episode is, they don't have children yet, so they don't know if they would kick them yet. I like that little joke.
Kick the baby.
Don't kick the baby.
Kick the baby. Oh, man.
All right, so
I did laugh at that. I had to laugh at that.
We get the traditional South Park disclaimer, and then we have to talk about this song and the introduction using "Going Down to South Park, Gonna Have Ourselves Time." It's by Primus. It has this really interesting beat and bass to it. It puts you in the world that you're about to be in, which is off-color, it's off-beat, it's absurd. And it has the right tone for the show, I think.
No, it definitely does. It definitely does, considering they never changed it.
No, they've made alterations to it. They'll make little alterations to it, like this one. Yeah, remixes. Yes, that is the term that I was looking for. Thank you. You know when you make an alteration to a music, like a dress, make an alteration.
You gotta do your sketch and then make an alteration.
That's right. You sketch and make an alteration. God damn it.
I'm putting that on a shirt. Don't forget to sketch and make an alteration.
So the first scene is the boys at the bus stop, and they're singing School Days, and they're waiting for the bus to show up, and Ike shows up, and we get the four main characters. And for those of you that are uninitiated, for those listeners that are not familiar with South Park, I guess we should go over the boys. Rachel, do you want to give a description of the boys? We get it here in this first scene, but I'd like to have you give a little bit of an explanation of the 4 boys.
Are you talking, like, physical description, or are you talking about, like, personality? Like,
Both.
what do you want?
I want if you met an alien from this episode,
I met an alien.
and they asked you who are the boys in South Park, how would you describe them?
So the way that they stand is the way I'm going to discuss them.
Which
one
I
at a
think
time.
they always stand in
They
this order.
always stand in this order, which is funny because Kyle stands next to Cartman for why?
Because they have to yell at each other.
It's true. Okay, so we start off with Cartman on the far left. He's a big-boned individual. Eric Cartman, big-boned individual.
That's right.
Always
He's not
in
fat.
a blue puffball hat and a red coat. They're always
Yes,
in
the
their
kids-
winter gear.
The kids are always wearing
Always.
winter gear because it's always cold in South Park.
Yeah, there's never, like, summer. There's never, like, a warm
There's one
day.
episode I know of where it's summer, yeah.
Cartman has a very boisterous attitude, kind of a jackass. I mean,
He
he
is
a
the
jackass.
antagonist in a way. Yeah.
He really is an antagonist in a way. Constantly being made fun of for his size. So that's one of those
Because
things.
he's a little
And so
fat
he-
kid.
Right. And so he kind of bullies back because he's always made fun of for his size.
Oh, that's
as
an
well.
interesting take.
I think it's a back and forth. I'm just saying.
I think he is just a
I
little
think he's a little
prick.
jackass anyways.
Yeah.
But I think he also bullies back because they constantly call him fat.
All right, interesting.
But I think they
Interesting.
also call him fat because he's a jerk to them. So it's kind of difficult to know who started where, but
He's
we're popped
fat
right into the
because
middle of
he's
it.
unhappy, and he's unhappy because he's fat.
he's fat because he sits on the couch and eats cheesy poofs. Anyways,
He has the cheesy
so...
poofs.
So now we have
I
Kyle.
love cheesy
Cheesy
poofs.
poofs.
Okay, we'll get to that. I'm
Love
sorry.
cheesy poofs. God damn it.
I don't know when that is,
So
but
far
I
away.
love
That's
that.
so far away. So then we come to Kyle Broflovsky, with which you understand the last name. It is Jewish. It is a Jewish last name. He wears a green hat with, like, the earmuffs and orange jacket. Him and Cartman are kind of always going back and forth with each other. It's fat boy and you stupid Jew. That's legitimately the back and forth between these two characters.
Our South Park episodes are going to be marked explicit, folks, because if we're doing some
I don't
impressions of the
I don't mean
characters,
any of it.
we're going to say what they say. Because they act like little shits to each other because that's what kids do.
Absolutely.
Do any of you play
Kids are
online
horrible.
games? This is what they are like.
God, you gotta be careful if you ever play online with random children who will just start, like, yelling slurs. You cannot. It is
Yeah, they're
not
horrible.
safe.
They grow up to be horrible adults, but
That's also true.
that's most people. Anyway, I would describe Kyle as
Kyle's
like
a
the
bit
smart
softer,
one,
though. Yeah, he's more of the smart one of the group.
the logical one.
Right. He kind of can get a little bit snarkier. He can get, like, those quips back and forth a little bit quicker than the rest of them.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
then,
I think he's supposed to be kind of based on Matt Stone. Like, Matt Stone voices Kenny and Kyle. But I
Okay.
think it's supposed to be, like, Kyle is kind of, like, a little bit surrogate Matt, a little bit.
That's
I don't know
good.
if their personalities are any way the same, but they're Jewish, and, like, he has the big,
I was gonna say,
the big
isn't
red
Matt
hair
also
afro.
Jewish? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
Yeah.
So next up, then, number 3 in the group is Kenny.
If you're keeping track. Is Kenny next in the way that they stand?
In the
don't
way
even
they're
remember.
standing here, I usually think that
I think
Kenny's
they
on the
flip.
end. I think
Yeah.
they flipped them.
I think they flip, yeah.
But on this first episode, Kenny's in the middle with Kyle. And Kenny, what's his last name?
McCormick. He's McCormick.
Kenny McCormick is in a big poofy coat. Like a big poof coat where, like, you tie the strings and only your eyes are showing. And
he's in the Maggie Simpson starfish outfit.
Pretty much. It's bright orange, so think like Christmas Story when the brother and he can't speak or move.
Yes.
I mean, like, it's the same idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's Kenny.
That was perfect.
That's all he does.
That was actually perfect.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But that is how Kenny speaks. Every line he says is behind like a muffled speech, so you can barely understand him. You kind of get the idea of what he's saying, and because the boys know what he's saying, they react. They kind of like they react to it, and then you're like, oh, okay, that's what he was saying. That's what he was like trying to tell.
He's the kind of kid that eats bugs.
No, yeah, he's probably at eat bugs. Like he's like downing the paste in the room, and
he knows too much about the world. He's for his age.
That's a good way to say that. I think he knows too much. He's like it's kind of
he's poor. He's the poor kid.
He is poor, yeah. So he's kind of has to grow up faster than everybody, but he's not. He like refuses type of kid. And then he's always killed, like always, like always.
I do love. We won't get to it for a very long time, but I love the retcon lore that they do on why he gets killed constantly. Do you know have you ever watched that one?
I feel like I have, but
It's
I don't
one of their
remember it at all.
Yeah, when we get to it, I really love the retcon.
I'm kind of excited. I'm excited for this.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, we have Stan Marsh here on the end.
Stan Marsh.
Marsh. I feel like I had to say it like that, and I was trying not to.
We won't get to that episode for a while either.
Darsh.
Stan Darsh is more like it.
Damn it. So Stan Marsh, I would call the average kid. He's got the blue and red
to be like the
ball
tray.
hat.
Like, yeah.
Yes,
he's
got
red
the
ball
brown
hat.
jacket. Yeah. But I think he's the average, and I could see you saying like he's the tray, but I think he's kind of just like the average kid, just like, there he is.
He's the sweet one. He's the one that has more kind of a bleeding heart. Yeah.
Yeah, I could kind of see that. He does have like the heart of the group, so that makes sense. But those are the four of our friends that are constantly with each other through thick and thin. And really
quite
crazy
frankly,
things like being abducted by aliens and having an anal probe put up your butt. I mean, so...
Well, and the idea, too, would be that everything that we know, you have to have those four quadrants, those four different types of characters. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles...
Ooh.
The Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Others. The Ghostbusters. They all have four different types of characters.
Insert more four-person character.
Our listeners
together
out there, come up with more other stuff that has four.
And explain which one is in which category. Like, actually
I
put
want
them
you
together.
Explain
I want to
it
see
as, I want a chart.
a matrix. Okay?
Yes. A poster with, like, all of the four quadrants, and then, like, their heads are in each one.
Yes.
That'd be great.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I'll put that on a t-shirt.
That sounds like fun. Can we actually do that? I will put that together.
We can do that, yeah. We can put it on our Shelf Life merch page.
I
Shelf
think
Life
that sounds
merch.
Fun.
Insert whatever the Shelf Life merch page ends up being here. Okay, that's a good summary. Let me take a minute here, Rachel, even though, we always do longer on the first episode because we're establishing the characters, but let me show you what Comedy Central said about the four boys and how they would depict the four of them.
Did you see how they were standing in that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they
What'd
were
say about
standing in the cute one.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, that's the right order. Yeah, so you're right. They are standing in the wrong order in the first scene.
They flip-flopped them.
I don't know what this one is, this original.
It looks
trailer.
better with Kenny on the end because of the orange being next to each other. So Comedy Central says, and this is what they say. We have Cartman the fat one, Kyle, the smart one. Kenny, the lucky one. I don't know if I would call him lucky. And then we have Stan, the cute one.
Yeah, I like the way that you describe them more. And you kind of get that idea right off the bat. Their personalities are pretty well defined even in this first episode.
Oh, absolutely.
So Ike shows up, and Ike is...
Oh, yeah. Played by an actual child.
Played by and always has been. They always get a little toddler to play Ike throughout the years. And you can tell because it's, Cookie Monster. Like, they always are saying random
Cookie
things.
Monster.
They just record them saying little things.
Don't kick the baby.
Kick the baby. So, Ike is Kyle's little brother. And, again, for those of you that are uninitiated, you may notice that Ike
looks different.
Is animated slightly different than the rest of the characters.
His head moves every time he talks.
His head kind of cuts in half.
His mouth is like, I don't even understand it.
Well, as we'll find out, and I think we find out in season 2. I don't know if we find out in the first season.
I don't remember.
We find out. Maybe they say in this episode. I don't remember. But Ike is adopted, so he is Kyle's adopted little brother. And he's Canadian. And as we all know, all Canadians talk like this. So when you talk like this, your mouth starts going to detach from your face. So in South Park, they animate that motion. Apologies to all of our Canadian friends and listeners.
It's a great day for Canada and thus the rest of the world. One day we'll get to that.
One day.
I like a lot of the Canada episodes, I think.
Oh, the Canada episodes are some of the best. So Ike wants to go to school with Kyle, and Cartman calls him a dildo. And I think that they were just trying to see how many times they could get away with saying dildo on television. I'm trying to do right now is how many times I can say dildo on the internet.
Yeah, we already have it explicit. You can say it as many times as you want.
Oh, perfect. Well, okay, then let me tell you my little...
They say dildo, but then they're like, what is it? I don't know.
Yeah, they have no idea what a dildo is, which is perfect, because when you are 8 or 9 years old, like...
You say stupid crap.
Dildo is. You just know it's an insult. You heard your older cousin or somebody say dildo, and you think it's like an insult.
Right.
Cartman doesn't know what it is. But Kenny does know what it is.
Yes.
Because they say something about a cat afterward, I think. Right?
In this scene?
Kenny must say something along the lines of, what's in our pussy? And they say something about, like, how would they know if he had a cat? Like, isn't that kind of like...
He's talking about the pussy.
So I censored myself slightly by doing it with the Kenny voice.
The pussy cat. No, he's talking about the kitty. Yeah, the kitty. Yeah. If you know what a kitty is, you'll understand that one.
And now for my 5-minute song that I am going to give you now about dildos in the form of Chef. Well, when a dildo get...
I love Chef.
So I bring up Chef because...
It's ridiculous.
Well, first Cartman talks about having a dream where he was abducted by visitors. They're calling them visitors, which is their way of saying aliens. But Chef pulls up, and we get Isaac Hayes as Chef. So
we're talking about Kick the Baby.
Did Kick the Baby happen first?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Kick the Baby happens. Kyle picks up Ike and swings him into Cartman.
No, it's just like, because it's just one of my favorites, because you have this child actor, this toddler, right? Or does Chef come after? I don't remember when Chef comes.
I don't remember. We can talk about it. It can be out of order. It doesn't matter.
No, I like the fact that Kyle just, like, all of a sudden turns to Ike and goes, kick the baby. Like, it's a game they play.
Yes. Well,
and Ike is like, don't kick the baby. And then he kicks the baby. He just punts him across the street.
Chef pulls up because they're kind of teasing Cartman about being abducted by aliens, and Cartman's like, it was a dream, goddammit! And Chef comes up, and The voice, Cartman's voice isn't quite right yet. He's a lot more like the people of Egypt, man. Seriously,
Oh my
you
God.
guys, seriously.
Yeah.
Talks a lot more like this. Compared to what he ends up being, what everyone knows is the Cartman voice. So Chef pulls up and asks if they saw the alien spaceship last night. And Chef is played by Isaac Hayes, the famed, legendary soul singer. Is that kind of the genre that you would call what Isaac Hayes? He's in the same like Barry White. He was a little more explicit, I would say. I don't know, but he's got a very
soul.
Yeah, soul. He's got a very deep, sultry voice.
He does. He's got a fantastic voice.
Oh, it's such a good voice. And they wanted to get Isaac Hayes for the show to play Chef. And I think I've watched an interview from Isaac Hayes back in the day where he wanted to do voice acting. He wanted to do something with voice acting. And his agent one day called and was like, hey, I got good news. You can get a voice acting gig. And he thought it was going to be Disney. And he was all excited because he was like, yes, it's going to be Disney. I'm going to be in a Disney movie. And then when and they were like, it's this show on Comedy Central. You're going to play the school chef that sings to the kids all of the problems. But he's great. And I think he really enjoyed playing Chef. And he played it for a long time before there was a falling out because of some things that we'll get to down the line. But I think if people know Isaac Hayes nowadays, it's because of Chef. He became a legendary character, and Chef is a great character too. His idea is that he's one of the few minorities in the town. He is the black guy of the town that is a chef. His big hobbies are cooking for the children.
Yes.
And making sweet, sweet love to as many women in the town as possible.
Absolutely. No, I agree. I would say that's his hobbies, yeah.
So Chef asks if they saw the alien spaceship, and Cartman starts to get a little worried that he was actually abducted. And Chef asks him if he was anally probed. And of course then the boys are teasing Cartman that he got anal probed. And
absolutely. As
Chef
children do.
tells them to watch out because the fat boy could be under alien control.
Oh.
And he takes off.
It just leaves.
So then the bus comes, and Kyle tells Ike to go home. This is when he plays Kick the Baby again, or the first time, I can't remember. And he kicks Ike through the bus. And everything moves a little slow and spotty. You can tell when he kicks Ike through the bus. Like, you can almost see the stop motion.
Yes. And the shadows on everything, too, by the way.
Oh, yes. Heavy shadows, because it's just layered.
Because they just have this light that's, like, shining on it. And it's all these layered, like, pieces. Oh my gosh.
It really is unlike anything you've ever seen before.
Absolutely.
It's quite great. And there's nothing really in the background. The backgrounds are very sparse.
Sure. I mean, there's a mountain, because it's Colorado.
Well, yes. And then this is where we also get the bus drivers.
Oh my god. I forgot about this bus driver. And then I see her and I was like, oh my god, I remember this gross woman.
This is a pretty accurate depiction of most bus drivers that I think kids deal with on a daily basis growing up. The sit down and shut up. It's either this or Chris Farley from Billy Madison.
Yes.
It's kind of that.
I'll drive this bus into the
Drive
river.
this damn bus around. She's sit down and shut up. Even Kyle and Stan sitting in the back swearing and her being like, what did you say? And then like covering it up. Like it is pretty accurate and pretty perfect.
Yeah.
But the visitors abduct Ike, and then the boys try to get the bus driver to stop, but she won't do it.
Too.
She's too mean to stop.
Right. She doesn't believe them.
Yeah, she doesn't believe them.
Because there's just these two very gray, very, like, aliens holding Ike, and nobody's gonna believe them. They're definitely
grays. Well, you know about grays. This is one of your things. Like, grays are a type of alien. It's the standard...
aliens.
Huh?
Yeah, no, there's a lot of different talk about what aliens would actually look like, as if they would be humanoid or if they would have, like, this weird head with these giant black eyes, like they always usually show
The
on a
Roswell
lot of
aliens,
places.
yeah.
Yes.
They make a fart joke here. I don't remember what the fart joke is. I just wrote down in my notes that they make a fart joke, and then it cuts to the alien spaceship taking off. Oh, I think they like make it really tense, like, what are we gonna do? And then one of them farts, and then they laugh at the fart. I think that's what happens.
Wow, they've come a long way.
It's pretty obvious that they're trying to get away with doing as much as they can with some sort of cohesive narrative, as opposed to nowadays where they have kind of mastered the art of making these shows in the week, 6-day time period.
Oh, yeah.
So we get Officer Barbrady. Officer Barbrady. Barbrady. I did a Krusty the Clown.
Officer Barbrady, who has not changed.
Okay.
This is one of those characters that I think stayed the exact same.
I disagree. Well, he stays the same for like 20 years. He has a character arc in like season 20 or somewhere
That's okay.
around there. But he
doesn't change much.
No, he does not. He is the local dopey idiot cop. That's his stereotypical role, which they're able to use a lot of police officer humor on Officer Barbrady.
Very true.
And we find out that he's illiterate at some point too. So
oh yeah, you do, because he's like, no, you read it. Like he doesn't read anything. He makes everybody else read it for him.
Yeah, because he's trying to find out who fucked those chickens.
That's later. This is
that
cows
might be the
being
first
turned
fucking
inside out.
said in this episode, actually.
Yes, it is. Good job.
I need it. We're putting the explicit banner on here. I have to say, mother, and whatever else is on
I'm bleeping
the
every
7
single one of
dirty words.
those. I'm bleeping every one of them.
I
want
actually-
everybody to guess what Kevin just said.
I actually kind of like when South Park does have to bleep it sometimes, because it makes it funnier. Sometimes bleeps are funnier.
Well, especially when
It's
there's,
my hot
I think,
take.
is it at the end of this episode or one of the other
It's
ones?
at the end of this episode, yeah.
Where Kyle just starts talking and every single thing out of his mouth is bleeped, and it's
Yes.
great.
Yes. Folks at home, let us know what your opinion is on this. I think, not all the time. Sometimes I don't want, like, movies bleeped necessarily. Like, I don't want the censorship. But if you self-censor it sometimes to have the bleep in there because you want the audience's imagination to run wild, like at the end of this episode, I think sometimes it can be funnier that way. South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, I don't want the bleeps. I want them actually saying the words in that. You know what I mean? It's just
it makes sense.
select, like what Rachel just did to me. I know she bleeped me.
Yes, I did. And just now, too. For no reason. He didn't even say anything bad.
So Officer Barbrady is investigating a cow being turned inside out.
Yes.
Which is very funny. I think the idea being that they're in this small town so that this cop is investigating this cow being turned inside out.
Well, it's kind of like the case of cow tipping type of thing, but instead the cow is completely
Yeah,
inside
the
out.
cows are mutilated, yeah.
Right. Poor cows. They're so cute.
I do like the animation on the cows in South Park.
They're adorable.
And Officer Barbrady says that it happens all the time. And I love that it cuts to the cows and the one cow shakes his head.
Like they
at the other
understand.
cow. Like, no, it doesn't.
No.
But the cows are all worried about who's going to be the next, like they're afraid that they're going to be next. Who's going to be the next cow that gets mutilated. And a bunch of helicopters fly overhead and the visitors show back up to,
they're talking about the UFOs and everything too, yeah.
Yeah, because I can't remember the farmer's name, but the farmer is saying that there's a bunch of weird stuff going on, and Officer Barbrady is trying to tell him, like, there's nothing weird going on, so then a bunch of, like, Black Hawk helicopters fly overhead.
Exactly.
And the visitors show back up. I can't tell what they're trying to do with the cows. Are they trying to tempt the cows? Because the cows all run. I assume they either run away from the visitors or they run to try to, like, strengthen numbers.
I assume that they're trying to, like, maybe they're trying to stop them from doing it again. but also realizing that the aliens want them for some reason, so if they all go together, maybe they can't do anything to them. I think that makes sense. Because I feel like the cows in this are extraordinarily smart.
Yes. Well, the cows, they don't use the cows a lot anymore, I don't think, but in these early seasons they use the cows, and there's a couple of funny things that they do with the cows throughout the first few seasons. And we go to the boys' classroom, and we get the introduction of our future president, Mr. Herbert Garrison. He has as you were saying offline, he does everything and anything throughout the series.
He really does. He goes through a lot of different life changes. And right now in this one, he is his puppet friend.
That's right, Mr. Hat. Mr. Hat, who is his, I guess his way of help. He helps me teach the children, Mr. Hat.
No, yeah, I guess that's a way to say it. Like, maybe it started out as teaching the children with a puppet, and then it became his other way of speaking.
His split personality,
because he speaks through it. It's kind of like, well, it's the stuff that I can't say myself. I'm gonna let Mr. Hat say it. You know, like, yes. I feel like that's what's happening.
Yeah, he blames things on Mr. Hat.
Right.
And he talks with like kind of an effeminate accent or some, like, it's some sort of like voice.
It's some type of accent.
Yeah.
It is some sort of accent. Mr. Garrison.
Yeah, Mr. Garrison.
Yeah. I guess, yeah.
He is telling the kids, and I'm going to use the verbiage that he tells the kids with this. He tells the kids that the Indians helped Columbus win the war against Frederick Douglass. I love the running bit of South Park through the first several seasons where the boys are doing something in class and or Mr. Garrison is teaching them history completely wrong, or he's teaching them the history of television or something completely stupid.
Oh, something ridiculous. Right.
Yeah. I love that running bit. Kyle gets mad that he has to do everything for Ike. He's talking about how he has to do all this stuff for his little brother. This is where I can't remember if he says he's adopted or not. And he tells Mr. Garrison that he has to leave to save his brother that was abducted by aliens. Mr. Garrison tells Kyle that he can ask Mr. Hat if he can leave. And he doesn't want to ask Mr. Hat, but he's like, go ahead, Kyle, ask Mr. Hat. So Kyle asks Mr. Hat, and what does Mr. Hat say, Rachel?
Well, you're kind of expecting something nice to be said, because you don't really know the teacher yet. I mean, we know the teacher, right? So, the thing that comes out of Mr. Hat's mouth... Oh, that doesn't... Well, I mean, it's really... Anyways. Well, no, Kyle.
You go to hell! You go to hell and you die!
You go to hell. You go to hell and you die.
You go to hell! You go to hell and you die!
That's what Mr. Hat says. Mr. Hat is violent.
Yes, Mr. Hat's very mean to them. I remember that being said a lot on the playground.
Oh my god, isn't it?
You go to hell,
yes.
You go to hell and you die. Like, that
yes.
was a thing
that is a very quoted
kids.
Thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know why, because, it's not...
You go to hell. You go to hell and you die.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of find out in South Park that's kind of how it works in this universe.
Yeah,
but...
you don't actually have to die first. You can go to hell first if you want to.
Cartman farts and flames come out.
I don't like fart jokes, but the way you said that
I
was
love
hilarious.
a good fart joke is great.
Oh, man.
This is a good fart joke. I think it's a good fart joke. So the flames come out, and they say it's got to be because of the probe. And
right.
Garrison asks
him
if he wants to go sit in the corner until he gets his gas under control.
Flaming gas.
And then Cartman, no, Mr. Garrison. And he farts again, and he sets Pip on fire.
Poor Pip. Has to be.
Pip gets it.
He gets fart flamed. That's awful.
They thought that Pip was going to be a bigger character. I almost feel like Pip and Butters switch places around.
Ooh, that's a good point.
Like season 3 or 4. Yeah.
Probably.
Because if you're going to say that it's the 4 boys, Butters is the 5th boy.
Yeah, Butters is the 5th wheel.
But they don't
Butters
really...
is absolutely the fifth wheel.
But they don't really talk about Butters a lot yet. Like, Butters is definitely the top secondary character after the boys.
They're trying to get Pip, and is it just because he has an English accent? So they're trying to make him like the token Englishman?
Yeah, they want to do a bunch of British jokes, so they're putting Pip in. That's clearly why. I mean, remember, they were just like two guys living in an apartment together in LA. You know that they probably were doing, oh my dear. Like, they were doing accents and stuff with each other, very akin to our office expert and myself in college doing funny crap to each other all the time, too.
Absolutely.
So, we cut to the cows again, and they're by this train. I think they're going to try to skip town to try to avoid being mutilated by the aliens.
Oh, so they did run away from the aliens. Okay, so that's what it was. So the aliens tried to get them to come over, but the cows ran away going, no, we all gotta get the hell out of here.
I
We're going
think
to the train.
that's what happened,
And then, I love this part.
And then the conductor tells... The conductor tells them they can't go on this train because it's a people train, not a train for cows. It's just the delivery that they give him.
Yes,
so good.
And to not try any of that cow hypnosis. Is that just them staring? Like, what does that mean? I love it.
Yeah,
the cows
those
are
little
so
lines.
Cute.
It's those little lines that I think make South Park so good. Because there's nothing. This is a very, very simple and short episode, but it's those little line deliveries that it's so silly and goofy. As a kid, maybe you didn't understand it, but like now you're just like, it's so perfect in the way that they say these lines. And Barbara tries to catch them, but they all run away. So then we get a very famous setup for a South Park scene, which is they're in the lunch line. And the boys point out Wendy, who Stan has a crush on. Wendy Testaburger. Can you do a Wendy Testaburger impression, Rachel? I don't think I can. You have to, like, really squeeze your voice box. Hi, Steve.
Hold on. I think I need to hear it. Hi. You're asking me with a very deep voice to actually do this voice. Hi, Stan.
It's hard to do. We'll get into the voice actress.
I don't think I can. That's as high as I can go, I think.
It's hard. I think it's in the second season DVD. Maybe it's in the first season. I haven't watched all the first season episodes yet, full disclosure, while we're doing this episode. The actress that does Wendy, there's an actor that does all of the voices for the women of South Park in the first few seasons. Mary Kay Bergman was the first one that did the majority of the female characters. And we'll get into it more in season 3, I think is when this happened, but she committed suicide in 1999. So they brought in someone else to do the voices. But there is a behind the scenes after the first or second season where they show her doing the voice acting, and she really does it. She really gets her voice to do the pitch that Wendy has. Like, it's not modified or anything. It was like, whoa, I can't believe that she could actually do that. So right. I thought that was funny.
It's always weird to see the face of the person doing a voice in a cartoon. It's weird. It's so weird, because it's a lot of the times it's somebody you don't expect, and then you're like, wait, what? And then you're like, how is that person doing that voice? It's just crazy.
There's this interesting animation on Stan. He gets like this weird smile on his face, like a dopey, love-struck smile, I guess is what you'd say it is.
Right.
We have to point out that this is the first time that we get, I'm not fat, I'm big boned.
I'm just big boned. Yep.
One of Cartman's signature catchphrases from this show, and Cartman would end up being plastered on t-shirts all over the place. It became, because the thing about, well, we'll get into it after this episode, but I mean, I'm not fat, I'm big boned. That's definitely something that comes up everywhere. And
Absolutely.
They talk about how every time Wendy talks to Stan, he throws up, because I think it's supposed to be like, it's a joke about how nervous he gets, and of course it's an excuse for them to be able to do a puke joke And despite getting puked on by him at this point, she comes up to him and gives him a note saying that she wants to meet him after school. This is where Kenny says the thing about a cat. Because Kyle says, what if she wants to kiss you? And Kenny goes, maybe she wants you to kiss her pussy. And that's where one of them goes,
okay.
How do you know that she has a cat?
That's what it was.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, that did happen here. I think I missed it because I just remember hearing, how do you know she has a cat? And then nothing. I was just like, wait, what?
Yeah, exactly. So that's how you know
That
what
makes sense
Kenny
now.
referred to. They're asking Chef a question. Chef's got Salisbury steak ready for them. And he starts to sing them about making love to a woman. I'm gonna make love to your woman. Gonna lay you down by the fire. It's one of his greatest hits. Chef's greatest hits.
He's so good.
There's so much about this first episode that is South Park.
Yes.
Compared to the first episodes that we've watched of other series, this episode has
well, they're
so...
trying to find themselves.
Yeah, they're trying to find
where
themselves.
they want to be.
You're right. I mean, yeah, I don't know if they knew what would hit or not, but there's a lot of greatest, hits that they bring, that they come back to. They're recurring gags.
Right.
The boys interrupt him because they're saying that doesn't help. And when they tell him that Ike's been abducted by aliens, by the visitors, I do love Chef's turn here because he's like, well, we got Salisbury steak today. And then when they tell him that he's been abducted, he goes, what the hell are you doing here? Staying in school eating Salisbury steak. You gotta get out there and find him, damn it. And I love Isaac Hayes' pronunciation of Salisbury steak. It's very good. Cartman farts, and this contraption comes out.
This contraption with an eye comes out.
Yes, there's this eyeball comes out. And throughout this whole thing, Cartman is trying to deny the fact that he was abducted. He does not want to admit that he was abducted. So they are able to get out because Chef pulls the fire alarm and they make a plan to get Ike. I thought it was interesting that Chef pulls the fire alarm here. I feel in future episodes they wouldn't have even tried to explain it. The boys would have just walked out of the school or something.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They wouldn't even try to have a situation happen or some sort of excuse. It's just no, we're leaving. That's it.
Cartman gets hit by a laser here because, again, he's denying that he was abducted. And from the sky, this laser hits him, and he begins to dance and sing to the song, I Wanna Sing to the Moon and... Folks at home, I really hope by this point in our run of Shelf Life, you've taken all of the times I've sung and you've put a backing track behind it and put that somewhere for my benefit. If not for all of the other lifers and listeners' benefit. But I wanna sing to the moon and the tuna and the springer. I wanna sing. Rachel, do you know what that's from?
I only know it from a cartoon.
Yes,
when I was
that's
a
what
kid.
it's from.
Is it
Go
from
ahead,
that cartoon?
explain it to the folks at home because I guarantee you this is obscure. Yes, this is where it's
Wait, is it from that? Is that really?
Yes,
that's
why. Yes, it's a reference to that. So go ahead.
It's a cartoon about this little. I think he's an owl.
I think he's an owl. Yeah.
This little owl who wants to sing and dance, but I think it's where his parents don't want him to do that. It's one of those situations where they have this thing set
It's
out
very
for him.
jazz singer. Yes, it's
and he's like, but I just want to sing, and so
yes,
remember
it's
anything
High School
about it.
Musical.
But it's literally just about this little owl who wants to sing, and eventually they find out, oh wait, he's actually really good, and then he wants to win a prize, and so he does, and this is the song he sings. I want to sing it.
To the moon and the tuna and the spring.
I didn't realize that's exactly what it was from. I didn't know if he just sang a song that was real.
No, that's what it's from, and that's why they reference it here. Because even the animation, I think, is
Oh my god!
based
that's so
on the
funny.
owl. Yeah. So it's our first reference from South Park.
I love Warner Brothers cartoons too. So of course I would remember that.
Well, you have some on the list. Stay tuned, folks.
Hanna-Barbera, Warner Brothers, all of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Doing all of them. We're doing Who plays Hitler in one of the Looney Tunes? Like, because Donald Duck plays Hitler in one of the Disney shorts, but I don't know who plays it. It's got to be Daffy, right?
It's got to be Daffy.
Yeah.
It's got to be Daffy.
Could be Porky. I could see. Well, Porky might have been Mussolini.
Ooh, Porky
Or
could.
Stalin.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Porky's not very innocent. As much as they, like, pretend that he is. It's like, nah, you gotta go back into his past there.
We'll get there one day. We have a lot of stuff on this list, so we are truly doing this forever. The aliens come back, and they hit Kenny with a laser. This is the first, oh my god, they killed Kenny. But
Yes.
Kenny is okay.
Yes.
Until cattle run him over. And
Yes.
he's fine. And then
Until.
Bar Brady runs him over. And that kills him. And I thought it was funny that they don't even take the first episode to change their own trope. Like,
No.
their trope is that they always kill Kenny, and they're already playing with that trope in the pilot.
Right! It's already, like, subverting your expectations of Kenny being dead. Like, how did you do this already, guys? What are you doing? It's the first
Which
episode.
I assume is because they kill him in the Spirit of Christmas, that they...
Oh, that makes sense.
Because
Yeah.
everything they're doing, they're playing off of the viral video that they made. So they try to prove that Kenny is dead to Cartman, but he's like, no, it's not, it is fine. I have not been abducted by aliens. And he
Well,
goes
is this-
home.
No, but this is the first, screw you guys, I'm going home.
Does he say, screw you guys, I'm going home?
Yes!
I think he just does it. Does he say it?
No, he says it!
Okay. Then this is, again, another put it on a
literally,
t-shirt.
this actual episode does hit, like, every thing that they continue with. Like, they just, there it is, and we're just
That
gonna keep
makes South
going.
Park. That's why I find it peculiar, because in some ways this is so crude and rudimentary and not what South Park is, and in other ways it's like, here are all of the hits that we...
It's exactly what South Park is.
Yeah. I guess it's all of the hits in the small jokes that they make in their gimmicks, but the overall construction and characterization isn't there yet. But they have the jokes.
Yes.
So Cartman goes home, and I always loved how there's pictures of real people in the background in some of the houses. Like, the Cartmans just have a framed picture of some real person, sitting on the table next to where Cartman eats his cheesy poofs.
Right. It's so weird.
This is where we get "You're not fat, you're big boned" from Cartman's mom. Cartman's mom making
His
her first
weird
appearance.
mother. Oh, she's so weird.
Well,
Was
she's
weirder than...
Well, she's a depiction of, she's a single mother. Gotta give her credit for that. And where she doesn't get credit for is she clearly spoils the hell. He's a spoiled brat, right?
Oh my god, absolutely.
She's trying to give him powdered donut pancake surprise, which sounds delicious.
It sounds fantastic. I would only be able to eat like 2 bites of it.
Do you think that
It would
powdered
be
donut
so
pancake surprise,
thick.
like, in the 25 years that have happened since this first episode in this recording, there's got to be a restaurant out there that serves this, right? Pancakes covered with powdered donuts. I feel like that's got to, like, if that's not at Denny, folks at home, let us know if there is a restaurant out there that serves it, and do they call it powdered donut pancake surprise? I know that Trey and Matt bought Casa Bonita. I feel like they've got to serve it there. They should have menu items of stuff that Cartman would eat at Casa Bonita now.
What I love is if you try to look up powdered donut pancake surprise, there's like different people have tried it in different variations.
Oh, really?
It's fantastic. Yes,
Okay,
like
hang on, I gotta look it up.
there's the one that looks identical to what she made, with the one donut sticking out of the pancake. But then there's like other variations of it where it's just like thick pancakes with donuts, or like donut shaped pancakes that are really thick.
Folks at home, for those of you that have
Fantastic.
for those of you that have kids, or for those of you that have roommates or a spouse or whatever, I want you to get up early one morning, like a weekend morning, like a Saturday morning, and I would like you to make your family or friends or whoever you live with. If you live by yourself, you can do this for yourself too. Make yourself a little treat. and make powdered donut pancake surprise. And I want you to let us know what the reaction of the people in your house was when you made this contraption. I do love that she walks... Is this when she walks away and she says, would you like a chicken pot pie? And he's like, it sounds pretty good. And then she goes, do you want the cheesy poofs? And he goes, yeah, I want cheesy poofs.
That's a classic too. You always gotta have the cheesy poofs.
Good.
You know, I call them cheesy poofs.
Cheetos brand
will even-
cheese puffs, cheesy poofs.
Yes. I call them cheesy poofs because of South Park. I call them cheesy poofs. Those are like the big tubs you see at the stores with
those
actual,
truly are cheesy
balls
poofs.
in them.
Yeah.
Cheesy poofs.
Yeah, you
I
have
love
always
it.
called them cheesy poofs now that I'm thinking
Yes.
back to our lives together. Yeah.
Cheesy poofs. But it's like a cuter way of saying it.
So we get to the next scene, and Stan keeps puking on Wendy when Wendy tries to talk to him. Kyle wants them to get it over with and make sweet love, because once they get it over with and make sweet love, they can go find Ike. There's a scene at Cartman's house where the news is talking about the crop circles, and
Yes.
they back out, and the crop circle is just... I thought it was a boob at first. I thought it was a joke.
Boob. Okay, wait. Literally it was on the TV, and it was a circle with another circle in the middle of it, and I went, boobs. They made them into boobs, and then it was Cartman's face.
It was Cartman's face.
And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, Cartman. I didn't mean to call your eyes boobs.
Do you think that's intentional, or do you
Probably.
think? Okay.
Maybe just a happy accident. I don't know.
Because it was very...
It was very
looked like a boob.
boob-like.
It was very boob-like. And Cartman says that it looks like Tom Selleck. He cannot recognize that it looks like him.
I don't think he wants to.
They're eating a pot pie, and Kitty wants some of the pot pie.
Yep.
And we get the very, I love, no Kitty, this is my pot pie. I love
that, yeah.
No Kitty, that's a bad Kitty! I love that.
And you go, yeah, Kitty, it's my papa.
And
it
Cartman
gets higher and higher.
Yes. Cartman tells his mom that Kitty's being a dildo.
Yes.
And his mom says that the kitty will have to sleep with mommy tonight. That is one of those jokes where I think
it's a gross joke.
they would not make that a few seasons into the show. They make that for like the shock humor.
Well, it was a shock humor for me because I went, did they really mean what I think they meant? Gross. Like, I actually said that out loud.
They do,
like,
and
what?
Cartman's mom, as we come to find out, is a slut.
Oh, yeah.
But by their definition, by their words.
Wow.
I'm
Don't
using
slut
their
shame.
own. I'm using their terminology, the terminology
She
of
does
the era.
definitely enjoy sex, yes.
Yes, she's very sex positive.
She's sex weird, though, as well. I guess I shouldn't be judging. Anyways.
Yeah, don't kink shame. Now who's kink shaming?
My bad.
Apologies to our listeners out there. But I feel like they definitely would not have added that line into the show if it weren't season 1. I think that that's definitely something where they were trying to get away with something. Wendy comes up with a plan to use the fat kid as bait to try to bring Ike back. Because if they put something in his butt... Why did I say butt? When they put something in his ass...
Why did you say the fat kid? Did she say the fat kid?
She says the fat kid.
Okay.
Then they can lure the aliens back because they obviously want something to do with Cartman.
Yeah.
Stan is afraid to do anything with Wendy there, I notice. He doesn't really talk or move his head. He stands kind of straight at the camera as long as Wendy is there because he's got a crush on her.
Right.
Cartman farts on Kitty, sets her on fire.
Of course.
And then his mom wants him to go play outside when Wendy and Kyle and Stan show up, and they tell Cartman to come play. And this was out of character for Cartman's mom, where she's telling him, like, Eric, just go outside, please just go outside. And she's never this forceful with him, usually.
I have a feeling that it's alluding to her probably having a friend over.
Ah, okay.
So
that's
this is
possible.
like the perfect time. No, you need to leave because this is about to get down. So I feel like with what we find out later, I think that's what that was happening.
That is very possible. So they hook up Cartman to a tree with a rope because they're like, well, if we hook you up, Cartman, then they can't abduct you. You'll be fine. And they wait. And they keep telling Eric that he has to fart some more. Fart some more, Cartman! Keep farting!
Yeah, because, well, that's when the eye came out, was when he farted. So he has to fart again.
They keep making fart jokes. They keep making as many fart jokes as they can. And he farts enough. This is completely absurd, but it is... I thought it was still kind of funny. That a satellite dish comes out, and Cartman still doesn't want to believe it.
Gigantic satellite dish.
And Kyle's like, Cartman, there's an 80-foot satellite dish coming out of your ass. And he's like, very funny, guys. Very funny. The aliens show up in a much bigger spaceship than we've seen from them before at this point.
Well, it's like the mothership versus,
that's
the
right,
little baby ships that come down, you know.
Yes, like in an Independence Day.
Yeah.
The visitors come down, and Kyle asks them for Ike. So he tries to plead with their humanity, for lack of a better term. They're aliens, so they're not humans. They're sympathy. And he does the first, I've learned something today. And he tries to tell them that he's learned that having a little brother is nice. And that doesn't work. They just turn around. Like, Kyle asks Stan, did that work? And Stan says, no, they're leaving. And so Kyle goes off. And this is where we get the all the swearing, and it's all bleeped out. It's kind of hard to tell exactly what he was saying here. I think that's the joke. But
well, yeah, it was impossible to understand what he was saying. Everything was bleeped. So it could have been anything.
And this is where, again, the trope of South Park is to always, at the end of the episode, go, I learned something today. They changed it because they made it so it didn't work. In the first episode, they did this.
Right.
Ike has opened the door or something of the spaceship, so he's just hanging out by the door. And Kyle tells him to jump, and he won't do it because he is afraid to jump. In the meantime, the aliens have started communicating with the cows. I love this back and forth communication between the aliens and the cows. It's so stupid and simple and funny. Because the aliens are just going...
here for humans.
Yeah.
They came here for the cows.
They came here for the cows. They tell them that they're the most wise species on the planet, and they're just going moo moo, moo 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 moo, moo
yes.
moo moo. And the cows are going back. They're just mooing back, and they're just like moo.
Right.
And the best part is when they're like, "Well, then why did you turn us inside out?" And the one guy's like, "Oh, that was my fault. My bad." Like he made a mistake.
Like, oh, I was totally an accident.
And they leave the cows a gift, which we find out what it does later.
Right. Yes. It's a weird looking disc thing.
And they leave. But before they leave, Kyle is trying to get Ike to come off of the spaceship. So he tells Ike to do his impression of David Caruso's career. This is where we get, I don't know, is this one of our first instances of outside of the spirit of Christmas, of a celebrity being named? South Park and Trey and Matt especially love to poke little Easter egg fun. Well, I guess Tom Selleck was mentioned. But they like to poke fun at celebrities because they hate celebrities. They hate Hollywood with good reason. And they like to make fun of how up their own ass people in Hollywood can be. So this was the first instance of that, probably, because they didn't really make fun of Tom Selleck, but of making fun of David Caruso. So he tells him to do his impression of David Caruso's career, and Ike goes, "It's my turn!" and falls off of the spaceship. David Caruso, for me, and what you will know him from, Rachel, is CSI. That was after this episode, though. So before that, he was supposed to be on NYPD Blue.
Okay.
But he didn't get a raise that he wanted, so he left the show, and maybe that's what they're referring to. He was in some bad movies and stuff. I'm not really and bad TV shows in 1990 in the mid 90s. So I think that's got to be the joke, and or it's just pick a random actor that's not in a lot of stuff at the moment and just throw his name in there, because a lot of the South Park celebrity stuff, which we'll get into in the next episode, they just like to pick a random celebrity and make fun of them for no particular reason, just because they're a celebrity. The aliens abduct Cartman again. So Cartman, they're trying to abduct Cartman, but the rope is keeping him tied down. But Cartman farts on the rope, and it sets the rope on fire, and he ends up getting abducted by the aliens again. And of course, Stan and Kyle and Wendy don't give a shit about Cartman, so they just let it happen.
Well, they got Ike. That's all that mattered.
And Stan talks to Wendy without throwing up this time, and he's happy about it. But as she goes to kiss him, he pukes. The end of the episode proper, they look at the food in his puke as the camera kind of pans out. And Chef, who's been waiting to greet the aliens, has these two women come by that he apparently convinced to, like, something was going to happen big. And in proper Chef fashion, when nothing happens, they're like, well, where is this big thing, Chef? And he goes, well, it's in the bedroom, ladies. So,
like, oh yeah, come to my bedroom, I'll show you.
Yeah,
it's like,
come to my bedroom,
what that's going to mean. Exactly.
And as the camera pans out on Stan and Wendy, which I did like that it's in silhouette. It's a very artistic shot that they're doing with this construction paper. You get Chef singing to the two sexy ladies. And then the epilogue for the episode happens. It's the cows looking at the gift and trying to figure out what it does. And as Barbrady comes to capture them finally to take them back to the ranch or whatever, they use it on him, and it makes Barbrady start singing "I Want to Sing a." Yep. And then the cows start dancing
they dance, and it's so cute.
Because their dancing is them just hopping up and down because it's just little cardboard. And then back at the bus stop, the visitors drop Cartman back off, but he got pink eye. He got pink eye from a specific celebrity, and I can't remember who.
Scott Baio.
Scott Baio gave him pink eye.
Who the hell is Scott Baio?
Well, I'm glad that you asked, Rachel, because part of what we're going to have to do with a lot of these South Park episodes... South Park will do these references which may have been relevant in 1997, but aren't relevant now. And or it's that Mystery Science Theater thing where you don't necessarily know what the hell they're talking about. But Scott Baio was a huge TV guy in the 80s. He was on Happy Days. He was on Joni Loves Chachi. He was on Charles in Charge.
Okay.
Charles in Charge, probably. I mean, he was the titular Charles in Charge. Charles in Charge. It's in that way. This is where they do some... The references to celebrities is a little bit Family Guy-ish, but they don't do the cutaways and the too long of jokes. You know what I mean? Like, they don't want to be considered Family Guy, and they're not. They're much more emotionally based than Family Guy ever would be. But, like, those little throw-ins of the celebrities.
They throw it in. They don't cut to something that it has zero relevance to anything else that's going on.
That's a good point, yes. Yes, that's a good point.
Of course they do references, and they do these, like, shots in the dark of, like, random things, but they don't just... And now off to the scene that has nothing to do with anything.
So anyway... That is the end of the episode. And that is Cartman gets an anal probe. Very short and to the point.
Yep.
Rachel, what are your thoughts on Cartman gets an anal probe?
Oof. Well, it's very, very obvious that it's the first one.
Yes.
Like, talking about it and actually, like, thinking about it, it really does have a lot of those pieces of South Park. And I do remember the anal probe. Like, it's one of those episodes, it's like, yeah, I remember the anal probe episode, but I haven't watched it in years. And then rewatching it, it's like, oh, wait, this was, like, the first one. Okay.
Yes.
So it's funny, though, that I do remember the episode, and it still feels like South Park.
Yeah, it still feels like South Park, yeah. It's rough.
Oh, yeah.
And them talking slower and moving slower and everything is a little jarring when you don't remember how they used to move around, especially for just this first episode. It's got the framework, though, of South Park, and it's got some of the tropes. So
Yeah.
it's not terrible. It's not great,
No.
but it sets up the world of what South Park is, at least at the beginning of their run. So yeah, that was Cartman Gets an Anal Probe. A wonderful half an hour of television that started it all. We will take a short break, a word from our fake sponsor, and when we come back, we will get into what happened with the response from Cartman Gets an Anal Probe from both the test audiences, the executives at Comedy Central, and the audience at home once it aired. And, of course, we will get into the second episode of South Park, Weight Gain 4000. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back to Jesus and Pals after this.
Hey, do you need to get in shape fast? Want to look your best? Tired of the other guys getting all the chicks? Are you tired of being a 90-pound weakling?
Yeah, I only weigh 90 pounds.
Then bulk up quick with Weight Gain 4000.
Yes.
With over 4,000 grams of saturated fat per serving, its patented formula is designed to enter the mouth and go directly to the stomach where it is distributed to the bloodstream. Now available at stores everywhere. Get some today and say it with me. Beefcake!
Beefcake.
Beefcake!
Beefcake.
Beefcake!
May cause irreversible damage to the kidneys and liver.
And we're back with South Park Season 1, going into Episode 2. But first, before we get into Episode 2, Rachel, we should discuss a little bit of what Comedy Central execs and the test audiences thought of Cartman Gets an Anal Probe. And would it shock you to learn that they did not like it?
Really? No, it actually doesn't shock me at all.
So, it received poor test scores from audiences. The Comedy Central execs didn't like it very much. Here's what's weird. The test audiences said it was too crude and too vulgar.
Okay.
And I think Comedy Central thought the same thing, but it's like, what the hell did you think you were getting? Like,
Right.
you knew what you were getting. So it's kind of weird that is some of the feedback.
Well, it's
when
kind of like,
you
yes,
knew
that's
exactly what
correct.
this was. Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that.
But I also...
Right. When
Yeah,
you
like, of course it's going to be
uh-huh.
vulgar. But even nowadays, if Trey is saying, yeah, we probably pushed it a little further than we needed to, we forced some stuff in,
Yeah.
I mean, it is vulgar, but I don't know if I would call it obscene or anything like that.
No, I don't think so. Innuendos and such, but nothing too in your face.
Maybe for 1997, because, I mean, you want to talk about what's everything in the news in today's day and age. It's the culture war. We have the culture war, and everything is the culture war this and that, and this side of the culture war. That's not a new concept. The culture war has been going on forever, and in 1997, South Park was an example of and a result of the culture war, of this idea that we're losing our values, we're losing our traditions, people are swearing, stuff on TV is getting vulgar. Wrestling in the Attitude Era is the same way, right? Like we're doing
Right.
this show, and we talked about the Royal Rumble 97 and that getting more adult, and it was a way to rebel against the old establishment who wanted to go back to a more conservative way of thinking. Not that South Park is super liberal, it's just that it's super in your face and vulgar and stuff, you know?
Right.
So I get that maybe they were hesitant because of that. So Comedy Central was hesitant because it got these bad reviews. They weren't really sure what to do with it. They were unsure if they wanted to actually have more episodes. And Parker and Stone told them they would write one more episode, but if they didn't give them the full slate of episodes, they weren't going to make it. They weren't going to animate it because it takes so much effort to animate
yeah.
it. They were like, we're not going to do this unless we have like a guarantee from you.
Right. No, that makes sense to me.
I mean, it makes sense because why would you commit to this if they're not going to really give you the... I mean, maybe they would give them the money for the second script, but they're not going to, go any further than that. Then what are they doing?
Right.
So they write Weight Gain 4000, the episode that we're talking about here. And they were trying to give the network an idea of how each episode could be different. They were trying to show them that they don't all have to be, for lack of a better word, kind of crude and stupid.
Right.
That they're going to have different themes and different ways to animate. The way that they were going to have to do this second episode, though, they also needed to find a better way to animate the show. They decided they could not do the cardboard construction paper. I keep saying cardboard, I mean construction paper. They can't do the construction paper cutouts and the stop motion. They needed to use some other method to do it. And this is where they hired a company and hired animators to do it all through computers. So from episode 2 on, they're using computers, and they picked a company that could they wanted to keep the crude look of it looking like construction paper, looking like stop motion.
Right.
And so they picked a company that said that they had the technology to do it. So it's kind of remarkable that they were able to do this in 1997 using the computers, and they do it in a fairly quick time period. We know now that they do everything in 6 days. It takes 1 week for them to make a South Park episode compared to The Simpsons, or I can't remember if King of the Hill was out yet or not at this point. But those episodes of The Simpsons take 8 months because they go to Korea, they get animated, they come back. Here in South Park, it takes them a week to do. And
Which
the
is
network...
crazy. It sounds crazy.
It's ridiculous. Because the amount of work that they have to do in those 6 days is outstanding.
Yeah.
You have to write, you have to do the voice acting, you have to do the animation. And I think that's why most South Park seasons are only 13 episodes, and sometimes they're cut in half, because it's just got to be the most stressful thing in the world to try to make those deadlines when you're starting from scratch every week. I think they like it. I think they think it gives them a creative edge where they have to be as creative as they can be.
Right.
And they have to not throw away certain jokes. Like if you listen to the Simpsons, I know I keep comparing them to the Simpsons, but in my mind this is the successor to the Simpsons. The Simpsons precedes South Park in my head. Mm-hmm. And when you think of the Simpsons, they rewrite stuff so much that because they want the joke in the episode to be the thing that was funny 5 times in a row. So it's the perfect joke.
Right.
As opposed to South Park, where it's like, whatever they found funny at the time, they just put it in. And sometimes it's stupid and they look back and they go, that was dumb. Why did we do that?
Right.
And sometimes it's really funny because they didn't overthink it. It's just, what would be funny? What should happen next? Yeah.
Plus, they get to be in the now. So if something were to have happened that week in life, they could actually add it to the show if they wanted to. So I feel like they get an edge with that as well. So instead of it taking 8 months and okay, well that was like a thing that happened
it's outdated.
8 months ago.
Yeah.
Well, they could do it within the next couple of weeks.
And I would say in the con of that, it could be that they make a reference to something that turns out not to be to have some evergreenness to it.
Yeah,
so then there's this random joke that you're like, the fuck is that?
Right.
So that could happen to them too. They don't do that as much in the early episodes compared to the current seasons, though.
Right, yes.
So
that's true.
The network gets the script for Weight Gain 4000. They like the script, and they agree to commit to a series with the guys. And Comedy Central says, fine, we'll give you the 6 episodes.
Okay.
They end up giving them 13, but they needed at least 6 to say that they would do another.
Right.
So they decide that they need to get an animator to head their animation. And they go to get one of their friends that helped them make The Spirit of Christmas. And it is Eric Stough, Stough. Rachel, you probably know who they put some personality, or they say they put some personality of into the show. Eric Stough sounds a little like Leopold Stotch. Oh, because they call him Butters. Because they call their friend Butters. Yeah. Butters Stotch, yeah. So Butters is based on Eric Stough, their head animator.
Oh, that's
or so
funny.
they claim. I mean, they're making fun of him through it.
Obviously.
But he's always been called Butters. So they called him Butters. That's how Butters got his name. So there you go. If you were ever wondering how Butters got his name, it's because of their lead animator. And they get a co-executive producer in Ann Garofino, but they do get Butters to help them animate this episode. So, they got the script. Comedy Central says, fine, we'll give you the episodes that you want. And then they animate the show. So then on August 20th, 1997, we get Weight Gain 4000. Rachel, shall we get into it?
We shall.
I was waiting for what you were going to say. I was on bated breath with that one.
This one is so dumb.
Well, they're all pretty dumb.
They're all dumb. You're right.
So, all right. Rachel, I think what we did miss out on, at least with the first episode, and I think that it's fun because, especially doing it with these first season of South Parks, I really want to do this because typically with these Shelf Life episodes, before we go into our walkthrough, I make you give a little bit of a synopsis of what we're about to talk about. So, can you explain to the listeners what Weight Gain 4000 is about? Because I don't think we did it for Cartman Gets an Anal Probe, but I always get a chuckle, and I think I could get a chuckle out of you trying to figure out how to explain what this episode is about, and every other one that we're going to talk about.
You're filling the void because I'm, like, pausing, and I don't know how to explain this.
Yeah, there's no way to explain this.
So,
Cartman becomes
who was
obese.
the actress?
Kathy Lee Gifford.
Who was Kathy Lee Gifford, okay. So, they make fun of Cartman being fat. Okay, that's what happens at the beginning. And Cartman then sees an ad for Weight Gain 4000, which is supposed to bulk him up.
Beefcake!
I think, right, beefcake. And I think the whole point is that he wants to get muscular,
yes.
more so than fat. But what it's doing is it's just making him fatter throughout the episode because he's just eating Weight Gain 4000, like, by the tubfuls. And meanwhile...
But that's a very minor part of the episode.
It really is.
We'll talk about it at the end probably, but like that's what this episode is remembered for, and it's like, it's a B plot.
So then we have the other plot, which is Kathy Lee Gifford is coming to South Park, and Mr. Garrison apparently went to school with this person.
Or something. Was it a talent
Or
show?
Something. Like a talent show. Yeah, they were in a talent show together, and she upstaged him. And that was it. That was the final straw. He wants to kill Kathy Lee Gifford.
Yeah. This episode is about Mr. Garrison trying to kill Kathy.
Trying to assassinate her. That's exactly what it is. So it's Cartman eating Weight Gain 4000 and becoming egregiously huge. Like, just enormous. Just becoming enormous. Mm-hmm. And Mr. Garrison assassinating or attempting to assassinate Kathy Lee Gifford.
Yeah, I think it's fair. See, that's all this episode really needs to be. Okay, so Rachel, does it have shelf life?
No.
Okay, well, like and subscribe. We'll see you later.
Not this one.
All right,
not this one.
Well, let's get into it. So on the DVD, they do the fireside chat again with Matt and Trey. This one, the joke that I liked out of it was they ask if they would ever get the urge to kill anyone, or if they ever have killed anyone, and Trey does, I would never kill anyone, unless they piss me off. And then they talk about how they are as American as apple pie. They love soda pop, baseball, and beating up old people. I don't remember where that comes in, but they said that.
Everybody loves beating up old people? What?
So it starts with the kids in Mr. Garrison's class. The animation already looks way crisper, way cleaner.
Yes.
The shadows are gone. They still have them there because that was the idea.
I think that's like the feeling.
They still
of it,
wanted
though.
the crudeness there. They still wanted that to be part of it. But then it looks a lot cleaner and crisper because now they're using the computers to do the animation. They're taking way less time to do the animation, and it's way easier, probably a relative term, but it's easier for them to put together the episode at this point.
Well, I mean, they're not taking picture of every single...
Right, they're not having to take a picture of every single frame.
Yeah.
They're talking about something with rainbows, the boys are. And Cartman's confused.
I don't understand
because he said
what
something
this
about
is.
a rainbow crawls up your ass. And he's confused about something, What the hell is he talking about?
I don't know. I was trying to figure this
Is it
out.
just do they just think it's funny because Cartman misheard?
It's confused?
Or is there something that is it a different word that we're supposed to think it is, but we don't know what it is? That, like, folks at home.
I mean, I would assume maybe it's like worms or something.
I don't know. That folks at home, if you know what the reference is, let us know, because
I don't think there is a reference. I doubt there's a reference to this one.
Yeah, there might not be. There might not be a reference. It might just be they think it's funny. I don't know. So what we learn, and I do love this part where Mr. Garrison says, "Hey kids, remember that essay that you wrote?" And the kids just stare at him because none of them remember what he's talking about. Did a Save Our Fragile Environment contest, and it turns out that Eric won the contest.
Mm-hmm.
And what you can tell right off the bat, too, is that this is still season 1 for sure, because the dialogue, all the movement is a little stilted. The dialogue is slower because they haven't figured out how fast to talk yet to do the speed up to make them sound like kids, so they're talking too slow. And Wendy Testaberger is mad that Cartman won because she's like, there's no way that Cartman...
It's Cartman.
It's Cartman. There's no way that he won a Save Our Environment contest. So they ask, what did Wendy write about? Because Cartman can't remember what he wrote about. And Wendy says that Wendy says that she wrote about dolphins. And Cartman thinks that dolphins are stupid. Like, that's why she lost, because dolphins are stupid. If they're so smart, why do they keep getting caught in those fishing nets? Which is a good point, because of course... Well, I mean, you told us, Rachel, you know, the tuna are... It's not the tuna that are getting caught in the fishing nets.
No, it's not them getting caught in fishing nets. It's that they're endangered.
Are they endangered because of the dolphins getting caught?
I don't think it's because of the dolphins. I think it's because of humans eating tuna. I mean, maybe the dolphins are eating too much tuna.
Do we still have that problem? Is that still a thing where the dolphins are getting...
Fish?
No, that the dolphins are getting
dolphins?
caught in the fishing nets. I wonder if it's still a thing, because it was in the 90s. Like, we talked about...
80,000 dolphins get caught in nets a year.
Oh, that's quite a lot.
Yep. This one says every year over 300,000 dolphins and other crustaceans die from getting caught in fishing nets.
Oh, that's counting everything.
80,000 dolphins may be accidentally caught every year by tuna gill netting boats. It is connected to the tuna. It is connected to the tuna.
Yeah, that's what I know. Well, we talked about, we did Seinfeld. Elaine was concerned about the tuna, and that was 1990. Here's 1997. We're still talking about the tuna, and here we are currently talking about it's still a problem. Got to get out there. Maybe that, I don't know what kind of charity or what kind of donation or what kind of awareness you can bring, but what kind of hashtag? Be more like Wendy. Care about the dolphins and the tuna. That's kind of a good lesson to be had for South Park in general, is be more like Wendy. Wendy is kind of the Lisa Simpson character.
She is the Lisa Simpson of South Park.
Yeah.
In a way, yeah. Her and sometimes Kyle.
Yes, sometimes Kyle. Kyle is, yes, he definitely takes up the Lisa mantle.
It's a bit of a pushover sometimes.
Yeah, but he does, to your point, have that Lisa mantle. So what we learn is that the trophy is going to be given out by Kathy Lee Gifford. And this is where Mr. Garrison looks surprised because of what you said. So I think you learn about this later.
We do.
Okay.
But we can talk about it.
Yeah, we can just talk about it now. Because Mr. Hat brings up that she stole his big chance at fame. So what was it? They were in... Mr. Hat and Mr. Garrison were in a talent show.
Yes.
And Mr. Garrison looked exactly the same, but like a little kid.
Like a little child, like still balding and everything. National Talent Show Finals, yeah, so it was just a talent show.
Yeah.
And he is doing puppeteering with
his ventriloquism, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's it. I'm sorry, puppeteering. That's different. Ventriloquism.
Yes. Apologies to our ventriloquists and puppeteering friends.
It's a hand puppet. So
it is a hand puppet, but he's doing ventriloquism.
It's ventriloquism, right. But the thing is that little tiny Kathy Lee also does ventriloquism.
Yes, with two different puppets.
With two different puppets.
And she sings, "If I Could See Me Now." Da, 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 da.
And a whole, like, backup dancer, like, pyramid and animals and fireworks and... and just completely upstages them.
Yeah, so Garrison believes that Kathy Lee basically cheated in this contest because she had a whole orchestra stuff. I don't disagree with him. I want to know, though. So Matt and Trey have kind of said that there was no reason for it to be Kathy Lee Gifford. They just picked a random celebrity, and Kathy Lee fit the mold because she was kind of a sweetheart, America's sweetheart in the 90s. I was trying to figure out, are they saying something about the celebrities via this? Probably reading too much into it. Although I think that this episode has more satire and commentary than the first one, of course.
Right.
So was it something where it's like, okay, this person looks talented, but it's because of all of the... And she is, because she is more talented than Mr. Garrison. But she can't just let the talent stand for itself. She also has to do all this bombastic crap over the top just because she can, you know?
Right.
I don't know. That's probably reading more into it than needs to be. But it is there if you want it. If you want to write that essay, you could. I think you could write an essay about every episode of South Park, probably.
I would imagine you could.
Like, because they just pack it so full of stuff. Mr. Hat whispers that he wants to kill Kathy Lee. Mr. Hat does. And he whispers a plan to Mr. Garrison. So in the meantime, the mayor... I don't remember the mayor's name. Does the mayor have a name? They just call her Mr. Mayor most of the time. Mayor McDaniels.
Mayor McDaniels, Mayor Mary McDaniels.
Yeah. And so this is her first appearance?
I don't know if we know her name in this episode.
We don't know her name in this episode. I don't know. Yeah. I don't remember when you ever learned that. This is her first appearance, and she's a stalwart on the show, at least in the classic South Park era. And she thinks that by Kathy Lee coming in, this is a way to show that the town isn't some pissant mountain, white bread town, that they could actually make it look like a bigger deal and put it on the map a little bit. And she thinks she could become a state senator or something if she plays her cards right. Because all politicians always just want to move on to something where they have more power. They don't actually care.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
think that's an overarching theme of politicians in South Park.
In South Park, for sure. Yes. Remember, it's always the show's opinion that we're giving you here on Shelf Life, not necessarily ours, but sometimes they overlap.
You never know.
Can't say when.
You never know when, because I will never tell you when.
Her aides give her an idea of how they can make the event go better.
I got really confused by what you were saying. I'm sorry.
Because I said her aides.
Yes.
There's an entire episode about that we'll get to one day.
Oh my god. Okay, try that again, because I just got really confused.
So her aides, her helper, her assistants, give her some ideas of how they can make the event go better or swimmingly, and they talk about how they could have Chef do a song because he's a black guy. They could show how diverse the town is. And they talk about how they can have the kids from the school put on a play of the history of South Park, I think is the idea.
I think so. Some sort of play.
And they make a joke that Kathy Lee loves children, especially if they're working in a sweatshop. So, Rachel,
did you do research?
Do you know? Yes. Do you know what this reference is?
I don't know. Did she have some type of clothing line or something that she endorsed?
Tell me about it. Why I find it a little more difficult to think that they didn't just pick Kathy Lee at random, although it's South Park and they're celebrities, so they could have come up with a joke about anything, no matter what celebrity they picked. So, in the late 90s, before this episode, or I guess mid-90s, Kathy Lee Gifford was Regis and Kathy. That was the big show that she had, right? So it wasn't Kelly and, is it Kelly and Ryan now? That used to be Regis and Kathy.
It used to be a lot of different people.
Right, but it originated as Regis and Kathy. So that's what Kathy Lee Gifford was known for. And she had her own clothing line. And it turns out someone escaped from the sweatshop. This kid escaped from the sweatshop when she escaped, she was smart enough to know, like, to have proof where she came from. She took a piece of the clothing, and the piece of the clothing had the Kathy Lee Gifford label on it.
Oh my God.
The line that she had was doing using sweatshop work. She said she didn't know. She said she had no idea, and she advocated,
which is probably true.
It's probably true because she
she's
just
probably
licensed
completely
her
blind
name
to it. You know,
yeah. If you ever license your name as a celebrity, you really need to fucking pay attention to what's going on.
Whatever
with that.
your endorsements and everything, you gotta know the backgrounds of it. Be smart about it, people.
Yeah, if you ever get your own line for our listeners that become or are celebrities, we know you're out there. So she ended up being an advocate, of course, against it. I'm sure it was to be more, what would you call it, to look more philanthropic, and or she just felt bad about it. I won't say,
Sure.
you don't know if what's going on in somebody's
we
head.
have no idea.
But she does a lot now for like labor rights.
Which could be why that happened. I mean, it could just be a true I need to fix this type of thing. We don't know.
Mm-hmm. On Regis and Kathy, she explained she was not responsible because the contract manufacturers make the products and did everything. She was just kind of lending her name to the product. They had girls as young as 15 working for 31 cents an hour, 75 hours a week in Honduras.
Jeez.
So,
all right.
Gifford contacted federal authorities to investigate the issue. She worked with Bill Clinton to support getting issues done with labor rights and child labor and stuff like that. So she did try to make sure that didn't happen going forward. At least she tried. So anyway, that's where that joke comes from, because her clothing line was caught using sweatshop labor. As you do. No different than anybody else. So anyway, Chef is excited about Kathy Lee coming and about singing at the ceremony, and he thinks if he sings to her, he can get with her. That's his plan, because he thinks that he can satisfy her better than Frank Gifford. Which, Rachel, do you know who Frank Gifford is?
I do not.
Okay. I figured you wouldn't, because we're talking about celebrities from the 90s. Because Kathy Lee nowadays is just a drunk on, like, the 4th hour of the Today Show.
Talk show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do, like, we're gonna drink at 10 in the morning every day, right? I think that's what she does.
I maybe still. I think they might have tried to.
They spun them off onto something
from
else.
that?
I don't know.
Or do they still do that?
I remember Joel
know.
McHale would make fun of that all the time. I remember him showing up on their show with, like, a box of wine. Like,
yes.
Kathy Lee Gifford was married to Frank Gifford. And Frank Gifford is from the 70s, from the New York Giants. And he's more known even today. I mean, he's probably not known by many people, especially our youngins, because he died in 2015.
Oh. Okay.
But he played running back for the Giants, and then he was an announcer on Monday Night Football forever. One of the original announcers on Monday Night Football. That's what he's definitely known for, is Monday Night Football announcing. So that's who she ended up married to, is Frank Gifford.
Okay.
But Chef thinks that he's going to be better in bed than Frank Gifford. So that's the joke. So we talked about Mr. Garrison. The mayor's in the classroom now, because she's telling Mr. Garrison and the kids that she wants to put together a play of the history of South Park. Mr. Garrison thinks, oh, this is perfect, because instead of killing Kathy Lee, I can just upstage her by putting together this awesome 3rd grade play. He could definitely upstage Kathy Lee Gifford. Wendy then says, Ms. Mayor, Cartman might have cheated on that essay. And the mayor's like, who cares? Like,
does it matter? Who cares?
Why does that matter? We're getting Kathy Lee because he won. We do not give a shit how she's getting there. And I do love that, because I think that this is a theme in some different things that we'll get to on Shelf Life, where the end justifies the means to some of these people, where they're like, what do we care if Cartman didn't earn it? It only matters that we're getting Kathy Lee to come to the town. So
exactly.
Who cares if that's I think, one of those things where it's talking about the moralistic integrity of a lot of people and how they view things, where it's like the end justifies the means. So again, I think it is pulling in more than the first episode, just by doing.
I would think so.
So
they're starting to actually like get their feelers into bringing more in that they probably wanted to talk about but knew they couldn't do immediately.
Well, and I think it's definitely something where they thought they had to go super vulgar and super weird in the first episode because they were trying to upstage Spirit of Christmas. And this is a completely, like, different episode where they're showing Comedy Central and the viewers that they're going to get different things. South Park doesn't have to be just stupid, I was going to say Adult Swim humor, but you know what I mean when I say that. There's some shows on Adult Swim that are very smart, and there's some shows that are very stupid. And I'm thinking of something that's very stupid, where it's like, here's just a stupid fart joke. The mayor tells Cartman to get in shape for the camera, and that's when Cartman is like, I'm going to be on television. I'm going to be on television. Which has to be used in the trailers, you would assume, for the South Park season 1.
Oh, I would assume. Yeah, definitely.
They're walking home, and Stan gets into an argument with Cartman about the essay. He says, I'm going to go home and get in shape and work out. And Stan says, you're just going to go home and sit on the couch and eat cheesy poofs. And
the translation is fantastic.
And of course, it immediately cuts to Cartman sitting on the couch eating cheesy poofs.
Yes.
And this is when he sees the most infamous part of this episode, which is the commercial for Weight Gain and our fake sponsor, which was the commercial for Weight Gain 4000, where he gets to beef up. This became a thing, Rachel. I don't know if you remember this because you were probably too little, but beefcake!
Oh no, I remember beefcake.
That was a famous thing. That was on T-shirts and billboards, probably. I remember, if you watched wrestling, there would be cutouts of Cartman with beefcake on it, like that.
Oh my god.
That was a huge thing, was beefcake. And it's so bizarre because other than this scene, and like another scene later on where Cartman's getting fat,
yes,
it's never in the episode again.
No.
So Cartman's shouting beefcake because he thinks this is definitely the way that he can get, I'm gonna get so friggin' ripped right now. I mean, it's so totally awesome. And he asks his mom for the beefcake, and she says that she'll get it for him tomorrow. Rachel, do you want to try doing the Cartman impression, or do you want me to do it?
I mean, I can try.
Give it a shot. Give it a shot.
What's the line?
She goes, but Mom, I needed to do it. That was my...
But Mom, I need it for tomorrow.
Yeah, there you go. That was perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Beautiful.
Thank you.
And
I tried.
Unlike the pilot episode, this is definitely showing Mrs. Cartman as being more kowtowing to everything this little brat wants.
Oh God, yes.
Because she's like, okay, Eric, I'll go get it right now. And just leaves to go get him the Weight Gain 4000. She doesn't even question what it is.
No, she doesn't. She's just like, all right, he wants it, I'll get it. It's like, come on. I don't think your kid should be taking this. It's just my opinion.
And he doesn't even pay attention to the fact that it says, like, it might damage your liver or whatever it says.
Oh my God.
So again, it's some commentary.
Not safe at all to take.
It's probably commentary on a lot of the crap.
Do not ingest.
There was a lot of this crap in the 90s, too, of this.
I think there still is, but it's a lot less than there used to be.
Well, now with the internet, it's not always like television commercials, it's just websites.
Yeah, it's not as in your face.
Selling you supplements and snake CBD and stuff like that. I mean, if any of them want to sponsor the show, like, you know, reach out.
We'll talk.
So Garrison wakes up in the middle of the night, and he's tossing and turning because he's thinking about Kathy Lee singing "If I Could See Me Now," and Mr. Hat tells him again to kill her. This time he does the Exorcist head spin and is like, "Kill her."
Yeah, Mr. Hat's starting to show his true colors.
So Mr. Garrison throws Mr. Hat into a drawer. to try to get rid of the feelings of having to kill Kathy Lee. Cartman shows up at the bus stop with a tank top on. This is a great design on Cartman, because I think Kenny says that he has man titties now.
I don't know what the actual line is.
That his mom.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's about having bigger boobs than his mom. I think that's what he says.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay.
But he's got to show off his body, because he's looking ripped. He's up to 94 pounds now.
Yeah, so he's gained, well, according to him, he was already
90 pounds. He's gained a little weight. Very reminiscent of the episode of The Simpsons where Homer gets the moo-moo. It's a classic episode.
Stay tuned for that.
Might be a main event.
Just that episode.
Well, we'll see what's around it. Cartman says that he doesn't have to take this kind of crap from those tiny little weaklings. And they go onto the bus, but Cartman can't get on the bus because...
I like this, that he's so happy he can't get on
He's such a beefcake, he can't even fit in the door right now. He's so friggin' ripped. Sweet. So the kids do a run-through of the play that they're going to do. And I think it's...
Yes, they do.
I think it's Clyde here, but it's... He goes up to Mr. Garrison and he says, I don't know if I'm an... This is the terminology...
Am I a pioneer or am I an Indian?
yeah. This is the terminology they used in the episode. Am I an Indian or a pioneer? Do you have a feather on your head? Yes. Then you're an Indian.
God. Yes, we know it's
they
wrong.
use the Indian terminology.
But it is what it is.
Yeah. Is it the Utes, the UTs, the Uts, Indians? I can't remember what they say. But
Hold on.
But the Native Americans that lived in the South Park area, Bebe is doing the narration, and the Ute. I think it's the Ute.
Ute.
Is that how you're supposed to pronounce that? Yeah, that is those are the Native Americans that were the Ute Indians were part of. I think it's what Utah is named after, actually.
I think so. Yeah. Okay, interesting. Hey, look, we learned something.
Yeah, I learned something today.
I like that. That's kind of fun to learn something.
Yeah.
It's probably awful. There's probably a horrible history.
I have a feeling that this is very, very accurate to the actual history.
I wouldn't be surprised. It would be really sad.
Because she's talking about how the Utes lived on the land, and then came the pioneers, and you just get the kids with the guns going, "Gah!"
And they just immediately come in, right, and let's murder all of them.
And all the kids are getting the kids playing the Utes are getting the shit beaten out of them, and one kid's bleeding from the head, right. And the mayor's like, "What is this?"
Oh my God.
And Mr. Garrison,
I love that Mr. Garrison goes, "They did a lot better this morning." And it's like, what was the difference this morning?
So you like that line? I like when the mayor's yelling at him about it, and he's like, "What? This is how it happened. Like this is the accurate way to do it."
Right.
So
he's like, "I'm making it accurate. What do you want from me?"
This is reminiscent of what we talked about earlier in the history piece of our talk about South Park, where they did the history of America stop motion, and they talked about how, and then they went west and they killed Indians, and then they went north and they killed more Indians. So that idea, the mayor is like, "Do you really think that you could put this play on in front of Kathy Lee Gifford?" And Garrison gets mad and says, "To hell with Kathy Lee Gifford."
And for some reason, the entire town is here.
Yes, for this rehearsal.
Yes. Like, I could imagine, like, parents, but the entire town is like, gasp.
Well,
like,
this is a little mountain town. They've got nothing to do. This is a big deal. They're all trying to be big shots.
Part of it.
Yeah. But yes, the crowd boos, and the mayor dismisses him. The mayor fires him from the play. So I don't know who's going to put together the play anymore, but they get rid of Mr. Garrison. And now Mr. Garrison...
I guess it's already... No, that's true. They're not going to use this one. They said this one wasn't appropriate, so someone else would have to
Yeah, they have to come up with something. Or they're just not going to do
right.
it. They're just going to let Chef sing 2 songs, I guess.
Oh, that's true.
Garrison is despondent, and he gets Mr. Hat back out of the drawer and tells Mr. Hat, "We have to kill her." Or no, he can't do it. Mr. Garrison can't do it. He needs to have Mr. Hat do it for him.
Right. Which, at this point, is like his alternate personality.
Yeah, like a split personality type of thing.
Yeah.
Cartman looks wider and fatter than ever.
He looks like a muffin.
Well, like a very overflowing muffin, though.
Yeah, because it's his legs, the way that they're like the straight and then the muffin top.
Yeah,
How cute could that be if they made like Cartman themed muffins, and or like cupcakes, and you have like the red, and then you put like a ball at the top for his head.
I'll tell you
How
what.
cute would that
In
be?
Cartman Gets an Anal Probe, we told you all to make powdered pancake surprise. I think now we're going to be asking people to make obese Cartman muffins. Maybe we can get a recipe for you every episode here, but I think that's an option.
Don't include the weight gain 4,000, please.
Yes, don't put any weight gain
that out of
4,000 into the
recipe.
muffins. Make them gluten-free or whatever.
Or something.
Not gluten-free, but you know.
No. Vegan.
You said that with such disdain. Vegan.
Any of that is so gross to me. It's just
Just so gross. I don't want to eat it because
it just doesn't taste right.
It doesn't taste right. Cartman calls Wendy a hippie, and Wendy vows that she's going to get to the bottom of this. She cannot stand the fact that Cartman won that contest. There's no possible way that he won.
Right.
Now we get a scene, I guess. I was trying to think of what this reminded me of. It either reminds me of the scene from The Terminator where he gets the gun. Probably reminds me more of a movie called Falling Down, which you can add this to the list. Which is a movie about a man that just goes crazy and goes on like a killing spree. And
okay.
Garrison goes to a gun shop. The gun shop owner asks him, is it for hunting, protection, or other? And Garrison says other. He's dressed in a trench coat, and they do and maybe it's from Taxi too, because he does a Taxi impression from the movie Taxi.
Oh, right.
Or, you know, are you talking to me?
Are you talking to me? Yeah.
And he buys one, but they're like, oh, you know, why don't you try this gun? Why don't you try this gun? And it's clearly, I mean, it's not overtly, but it is obviously giving you a little bit of a gun control and how easy it is to get like these guns that are clearly not for hunting. They have a sniper scope on them.
I do like the part where he's just like, okay, well, how about this one again, but with this embellishment on it, with a little accessory. Yeah, let's make it a little fancier.
Yeah, exactly. And Garrison likes that one, so he buys it.
I do also like that they just use pictures of real guns.
Yes. It gives it that style.
So
it gives it
weird.
that cheap, crude feeling when they use the
magazine
real stuff.
cutouts.
Yes, exactly. I love that. Yeah, it gives it a nice aesthetic. That South Park
There's a
look.
seal poster that also says guns, buy one, and it's just a seal.
I guess so that you can go kill the seals?
I don't know.
That's a good observation. Wendy is looking for Cartman's essay, so she's gone into Mr. Garrison's class, presumably after hours?
Well, the clock says... Do you want me to tell you what the clock says? The clock says 10 to 1 in the morning, I think.
So she's going after
it's either like
midnight?
or it's like... Or does it say 10 o'clock? Hold on, let me look at this again. Because it's hard to tell which one's longer.
And I'm sure it's
So
not
it's either 10... It's either 10:05...
or it's midnight.
Or it's like midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning.
Well, either way,
I want to say it's 10 to 1 in the morning. It's nighttime.
So
it's
either
nighttime.
way, she went in the middle of the night into the school.
Right.
And that makes it even weirder that Mr. Garrison shows up, because she's looking for Cartman's essay, and she finds it. As she's doing this, Garrison walks into the room and reveals his plan to Wendy unexpectedly, because Wendy is hiding behind a desk or something.
Right.
The next day at the talent show, Garrison is walking around with his big sniper rifle. Some commentary, because the people are like, hey, good-looking gun, Mr. Garrison.
Well...
They're just complimenting him on his gun.
Yeah, that's like a carry thing, right? Don't need to conceal it, just carry it.
No, open carry or whatever.
Open. Is it open carry?
Yeah, that would be open
Conceal and carry, open carry, yeah.
There are certainly places in the United States, for sure, where I guarantee you that's probably... Oh, nice looking gun. Not to insult our friends in the South, but... Oh, nice looking gun there! I think
Absolutely.
if there are any listeners out there, folks at home, that if you're not from the U.S., the U.S. is very big and diverse in thought. So this is definitely...
It's huge.
It's a regional thing, though. Like, in certain places, this would freak people out, and in certain places, this would be like somebody's just walking down the street. So...
You're right. It's diverse with the types of people. It's diverse with the thoughts of people. It's diverse with the land and the temperature and the biomes. The U.S. is weird.
It's very strange. It's a very fucked up experiment.
So, I mean, it's pretty much made up of multiple countries in one.
But one of the things, and especially at the time of this recording, one of the hot topics is gun control. So I thought it was interesting to see.
I feel like it's a
hot topic forever. But it is, especially right now. And that's why I thought it was interesting to see this kind of commentary which is, it's subtle. They don't hit you over the head with it, but still. Barbrady, he asks Mr. Garrison where he can get a good picture of Kathy Lee. Barbrady tells him, I almost said Professor Barbrady because I was going to say Policeman Barbrady. But Officer Barbrady tells him that the book depository is a nice place. I think most people probably get that reference. Rachel, you know that reference, right? The book depository.
Is that the,
Kennedy was assassinated.
Okay, it was the Kennedy one.
Yeah.
So it was the Kennedy assassination. Okay.
Yes. And then the joke is that somebody has a camera, and Officer Barbrady didn't think anything of Mr. Garrison having this big gun, but he's like, oh, a camera, gonna try flash photography, huh? And takes the camera away. So,
right. Again,
a good little satire, haha joke. Wendy tells the boys that Cartman now looks like a blob. Oh no, I don't know if she says that. I wrote down that Cartman now looks like a blob. He's just a giant blob, and the boys are planning to push him up a ramp to get him on stage because he's so gigantic at this point. Right. But Wendy tells them about the plan.
They have to save Kathy Lee Gifford.
And Wendy also reveals that she's got the paper and knows why Cartman was able to win. But it's more important to stop the assassination. And they do like, well, what's more important, being on TV or some assassination? Like they do have that thought as well.
Right.
So Kathy Lee comes in, and Kathy Lee comes in the Pope Mobile, basically.
Yes. It's so weird. She's in a tube bubble.
A bulletproof tube.
Glass?
Well,
yeah.
Have you ever seen the Pope Mobile?
I have seen the Pope Mobile.
Yeah, so this is clearly a riff on that. Cause
absolutely.
The Pope, in order to be in a parade or something, they'll always put him in a bulletproof case. Because
to keep him safe.
People are going to try to take a shot at him. And this is the same idea. So, like, they're prepared.
They knew that there could be an assassination attempt in Colorado, apparently.
Well, everyone is mad at Kathy Lee, I guess. Garrison is upset about the protection, but he thinks, well, you have to come out of that precious bubble sooner or later.
Right.
And Chef sings a song, and as the lyrics get more and more explicit, because that's obviously what always happens when Chef sings a song, the mayor pulls him off the stage. So then Wendy and Stan are trying to tell Barbrady about Garrison. They're at, like, have you seen Mr. Garrison? We think that Kathy Lee's in trouble. And I love that he says he doesn't remember or whatever, but then it cuts to him remembering and going, book depository. And then it just goes, damn, he could be anywhere. I thought that was really funny. It's a very Simpsons joke.
Is there somewhere in town where I can get a good, clear shot or view of Kathy Lee?
I think the book depository would be a good bet. Book depository. Damn, he could be anywhere.
That kind of swerve of what you expect, and then it goes a different direction, which is different for South Park. They do have different senses of humor and how they go about everything, but I thought that could have easily have been in The Simpsons. You replace that with Wiggum, and it could have worked.
Yeah, I could see that.
Luckily, Stan sees Garrison in the window, so they head over there. And then they bring Kathy Lee to the stage. They just toss her on top of it. I love the sound that is used because she's in this tube, so her voice isn't perfectly crisp. it sounds a little more muffled, or it sounds like it's coming through a little bit differently because she's in this tube. Something like this. I'm trying to give the effect. I have no idea if this will do it or not, but she's like, oh, thank you for having me, as opposed to thank you for having me. And Wendy and Stan end up in the room with Garrison, and Wendy tries to reason with him by saying that she didn't deserve it, she cheated it out of it. And I love that she's like, she's been bad to many people or something like that. Like, she does like the typical speech you would expect, but it doesn't make any sense because in the context. And Kenny and Kyle have to push Cartman to the stage. So they're trying to push him up. Wendy gets to do the I've learned something today. So she does this whole thing. And Stan ruins it because she's almost convinced Mr. Garrison not to take the shot. But then Stan is like, wow, she really was able to do all that? Because they tell the story of the talent show. And Garrison's like, that's it, she's going to die. And he takes a shot, but because Cartman is so fat, when he gets on the stage, his weight breaks the stage, and Kathy Lee flips into the air, and Garrison...
At the right moment.
Yeah, and Garrison accidentally shoots Kenny instead. And then all that commotion causes the Kathy Lee Secret Service to flee her away. So Kathy Lee is no longer there, South Park doesn't get to have their big Kathy Lee moment, and Mr. Garrison didn't get a chance to assassinate her. And Wendy reveals on stage, so Wendy goes on stage, and Wendy reveals that Cartman's essay, all it was that it was Walden by Justin Thoreau. It was Walden by Thoreau. Cartman took Thoreau's name on it, Henry David Thoreau, and
literally crosses out
and put his name on it. And the crowd doesn't care. The crowd doesn't care at all.
No, it doesn't matter.
Because it doesn't matter at this point. They didn't get to have Kathy Lee. So Wendy doesn't really get her justice because nobody gives a shit. And I thought about this whole thing because what we basically are going through here is that Mr. Garrison is upset that he lost something. He feels that he should have won something, but somebody else did win it. I think that this is a pattern for Mr. Garrison.
It is definitely going to be a pattern for Mr. Garrison.
We saw this when he was the president. He had a hard time accepting that. So, I mean, it is in his character. They kind of set it up here because
I think they really did.
I mean, we've seen it here, since he's out of office now, but he still is having a hard time accepting the fact that he didn't really win that talent show.
And the winner did cheat, according to
Mr. Garrison in both of those cases, yes. Which I really do wish that Mr. Garrison would have just stuck to entertaining like Kathy Lee. That probably would have been a better path for him.
I think so.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So who knows?
He seemed to have had to do a lot of things, though, going between these 2 points that you're saying, though. He had a lot of different things happening.
Absolutely. For sure, yes. But I did find that interesting as well. A little parallel to...
It does parallel to the current.
Yes.
The almost current. Yes.
Yes.
I agree.
So the mayor is upset that she's stuck in this town and doesn't realize that the mic is on because she's just kind of saying, like, this pissant shit hick town.
Right.
Mr. Hat is taken in for therapy because it was Mr. Hat. It wasn't Mr.
Yeah, no, it was not Mr. Garrison.
Which he got off light for trying to kill Kathy Lee. He just has to go to therapy.
I would think so. Yeah. He's still a teacher for children.
And then Cartman gets to be on Geraldo via satellite as a huge glob. So today, Geraldo is just a talking head on right-wing news channels, I think, as just, I'm Geraldo. But back then, I think he had his own talk show in the 90s, and it was just as... I mean, because news has basically become talk shows from the 90s. It's just...
No, that's true.
So
I think it has.
It makes sense, but...
Is there anything you'd like to say to people out there?
Follow your dreams. You can reach your goals. I'm living proof. Beefcake! Beefcake!
I love it.
Just look at me. Beefcake!
Beefcake! Yeah, I think he does do it. And then the stinger is that Chef is sleeping with Kathy Lee. And
just like in his song.
And he convinced her with the song.
Yep.
So
I think that's what
it worked
happened.
exactly like he wanted. And Kathy Lee asked him if she can go again, I think, right?
I think that's what she's implying, yeah.
And he goes, "Damn, woman, I just made Sweet Lovin' 5 minutes ago." So Chef has he's got to recoup. And that's the end of the episode.
That's how it ends.
That is the end of Weight Gain 4000. So, Rachel, did you learn something today?
Did I learn something today? I learned that weight gain products probably will not get you the results that you are actually looking for.
That's a good takeaway.
I think that's what I'm going to go with. I could go with a lot of different things, but I think that's the one I'm going to go with.
Any other thoughts on the episode?
It's fine. It's got things that you'll, like, just laugh at. It's one of those weird episodes to me.
Yeah, I mean, all of that, back then.
I mean, they're all weird, obviously, but it's one of those episodes where it's just like, all right, I'm confused.
I think it's just weird how big Beefcake became, because it's really not that
It was just this episode, too, so...
There's some funny jokes in this. It feels much smaller than... I feel like if they were to redo this episode with the same themes of consumerism and supplements and gun control and celebrity culture, it would feel so different if they did the same thing today.
Right. Which they probably have. I bet we could find an episode that is identical to this one. Yeah. Yes. Which would be really interesting to see the difference in how they speak about it instead.
Yeah, I agree. But I do think that it is better than... Well, it has more jokes. It feels like they're finding their way.
Yes. No, it does have more jokes. Yeah, that's why it's funny. There's like points where you laugh, so of course it's a little funny.
So that is Weight Gain 4000. Coming up next after a important public service announcement. When we come back, the next episode of South Park, Volcano. Continued in part 2.